of took it down to an area called the cul-de-sac, and I think it's on Road 57. It's a dead-end dirt road.
From the bitter cold of Alaska to the deep woods of North Carolina, sightings of a mysterious creature, tall, bipedal, and seemingly intelligent, have defied explanation for decades. Known by many names, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the hairy man, this elusive figure has become more than a myth. It's a phenomenon. And while skeptics continue to dismiss the idea, a growing number of researchers, adventurers, and everyday people are gathering the evidence. In this documentary, we examine 5 of the most compelling Bigfoot investigations ever recorded. Moments where technology, instinct, and luck collided to capture something extraordinary. These are not reenactments. These are real stories. From thermal camera captures to strange sounds echoing in ice caves, each event leaves behind more questions than answers. So step into the wilderness, where the line between legend and reality begins to blur, and ask yourself, what's out there, watching us? Have you ever felt like the forest was listening? Not just quiet, but aware, as if the stillness around you was holding its breath. That's exactly how Richard described the moment before it happened. In January 2021, somewhere along a quiet pine trail in New Zealand's North Island, he stepped into something he couldn't explain. It wasn't just a feeling, something was there. Richard wasn't a cryptid hunter or thrill seeker. He was filming a personal message, a tribute to love and the unseen patterns that shape our world. The forest around him was calm, windless, but as his words touched on connection, consciousness, and ancient memory, something changed. Then came the sounds. First, a deep thump, far off but unmistakable. Then another. Richard paused, camera still rolling. A third hit, closer this time. The ground seemed to shudder with each impact, like something impossibly heavy was moving nearby, on 2 feet. He turned the camera toward the tree line. Nothing but stillness, no birds, no movement. Just that low, humming tension that creeps in when the forest holds its secrets tight. And then, just for a second, a face, half-hidden, gray-toned and watching him from the brush. Its features weren't human, but they weren't fully beast either. The eyes were set wide, the brow heavy. It didn't blink, it didn't move, but it was there. Watch the moment Richard didn't scream or run. He simply stepped back and kept the camera steady. When he returned to the same spot hours later, what he found shook him even more. A circle of pine branches carefully snapped and arranged in a spiral. Not natural fall, not random. Each branch placed deliberately, forming what looked like a symbol or sign. This wasn't there before, and no one else had passed through that stretch of forest. In Maori folklore, there's a figure called the Moehau Man, a large, silent being said to dwell in remote mountain forests. Most dismiss it as legend, but Richard's footage sparked renewed curiosity. The symmetry of the stick formation, the impact sounds, and that face. Skeptics pointed to pareidolia, seeing faces in patterns of leaves and shadow. Others argued it was staged, but the video remained raw and unedited. No cuts, no digital effects, just a man, a camera, and something watching him from the trees. And then there's the moment itself, the strange timing. The knocks only began once Richard's words shifted toward themes of love, memory, and unseen energy, as if whatever was out there responded to emotion, not noise. Since posting the video, Richard hasn't gone looking again, but he hasn't stopped thinking about that day either. Not just what he saw, but how it made him feel. A presence that wasn't threatening, but aware, intelligent, listening. Could it be that the Moehau Man isn't just a relic of old stories, but part of a larger truth hiding in plain sight? And if so, Why does it only appear to those who feel, not just those who seek? What do you think Richard encountered that day? Was it legend coming to life, or something we still don't have the language to explain? When it comes to understanding why Bigfoot has eluded definitive discovery for generations, no analysis is more compelling than that from RMSO, the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization. Their detailed breakdown helps illuminate the reasons behind this creature's vanishing acts and stealthy survival. First and foremost, RMSO reminds us of a simple fact. Bigfoot is extremely rare. That alone makes encounters scarce. But rarity alone doesn't explain the near invisibility. It's the creature's intelligence, its instinct to avoid humans, that makes the difference. As RMSO puts it, this is an animal that knows humans are dangerous, not just to it, but to the entire ecosystem. Eyewitness accounts, photographs, and videos consistently show Bigfoot with hair colors that blend seamlessly into the environment: black, brown, red, blonde, and even white. Remarkably, there are theories, and even supporting accounts, suggesting Bigfoot may seasonally change its hair color, turning white in the winter like weasels, snowshoe hares, or ptarmigans. That alone would place it among a very select group of advanced mammals with adaptive camouflage. But RMSO takes this a step further, with a startling hypothesis. Some eyewitnesses have reported Bigfoot with hair that doesn't just blend, it bends light. Like a living stealth suit, the hair might scatter, refract, or reflect light in ways that distort visibility, even at close range.
First one was just standing there, it was really weird, like a reflective light almost, when I moved. He was just there. It was scowling. He was scowling and kind of looking, and it was probably about 5 seconds, and then he like huffed, and you can see all the cold coming out of his nose.
One example is Matthew Anderson's encounter. Just a month after a Bigfoot was filmed in the same area, Anderson claims to have come face to face with not one, but two large creatures. He described the experience as surreal, as if light was bouncing off the creature in an unnatural way. It was standing still, yet had a kind of reflective distortion. When it moved, the cold breath was visible, but the outline remained difficult to track. To support this, RMSO points to examples from nature, specifically the polar bear. Though their fur appears white, it's actually made of transparent, hollow tubes. This hair funnels light down to their black skin for warmth and also helps them remain buoyant while swimming. Photos of what RMSO believes to be a yeti in Russia also support the idea. These high-resolution images show the creature nearly disappearing into its surroundings, despite being up close. The hair seems to refract light in such a way that it becomes difficult for the human eye to focus on it. In one field investigation, RMSO collected 2 large wads of hair near a documented trackway. They sent samples to 3 universities and 1 museum. To date, none have matched it to any known species.
At the request of 3 universities and 1 museum, we sent large, generous samples at the end of 2013 to all of these places. To this day, none of them have admitted to making a match with any known mammal. A step or 2 away from this hair, it appears to be grayish blue. From a distance, gray, and it just seems to melt into the background.
When examined under a microscope, the hair revealed something extraordinary, minimal to no medulla, the protein core found in most mammalian hair. Add to this the diverse natural coloring, a mixture of gray, black, blonde, red, and brown. And the result is a nearly perfect camouflage system, enhanced by an optical trick of the light itself. No wonder Bigfoot has remained the undefeated champion of hide and seek. Have you ever felt like the mountains were watching you? Not just the wind, not just the trees, but something alive. In the high reaches of the eastern Sierras, where the snow stays late and the air thins, people say something moves between the pines. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, a creature most will never see, but some will never forget. Bill was one of those people. It was May, He was up on Coyote Ridge, nearly 10,000 feet above sea level. The snow was still thick, crunching under his boots. His dogs ran ahead, kicking up white powder. It felt like any other quiet day, until it wasn't. Watch this part in the far left of the frame. Behind the trees, something dark moved quickly. Not a skier, not a hiker. It walked smooth, almost gliding, with no bounce in its stride. Bill zoomed in later, 400%, and the shape became clear. Dark fur, a domed head, long arms swinging with each step. It slipped into thick cover, pulled branches aside, and squatted low, watching. The dog seemed to notice. Its head turned toward the shadow, but Bill didn't see it. Not yet. He panned away to film his dogs, never realizing a massive figure was only yards away, hidden in the trees. When RMSO slowed the footage to half speed, the details became sharper. You could see the arms move. The body didn't match a human frame. And the way it stopped, low and still, felt more like a predator than a passerby. Arthur knew that feeling. His story happened in 1997, deep in Sequoia National Park. He was a ranger back then, sent to investigate strange sounds in an overgrown area visitors rarely entered. Noon sun filtered through thick brush. He had a tranquilizer rifle in the Jeep, just in case. Then came the growl, deep, close. He turned and froze. It stood taller than any grizzly he'd seen. Reddish-brown fur, wide shoulders, human-like hands, massive and strong. Its face wasn't animal, it was something else entirely. Arthur's voice shakes even now as he describes it charging toward him. He dove into the Jeep just as it hit, smashing the window. The glass burst inward. It grunted, angry, hurt, then chased him on all fours, fast as a sprinting chimp. Arthur floored it, swerving around curves until the thing was gone. When he returned, shaken and pale, his boss didn't believe him, called him a liar, fired him. For years he kept silent, living with the fear, the dreams, the panic attacks, and still he insists it was no bear. Bears don't have human faces. They don't watch from cover. They don't run like that. Look closely.
Be careful.
In the eastern Sierras and the Sequoia forests, sightings like these keep stacking up, each one different, each one eerily the same. So, what walks these mountains? And if you ever meet its gaze, will you survive to tell the story? The footage begins without warning. A narrow dirt road stretches deep into Idaho's backcountry. No other vehicles, no distant voices. Just the crunch of tires over gravel, the hum of solitude.
About 6 miles before my final destination, I run upon a Forest Service outpost, and the sign before it is a good sign.
And the creeping sense that something out here is watching. This wasn't just a casual trip. He had studied the region thoroughly, identifying it as a possible Bigfoot habitat due to its isolation and lack of human interference. Meadows, streams, and old-growth forests surrounded the area.
And since I've become a Bigfoot guy, I take an audio recorder and I put an audio recorder out every night whenever I go camping.
Far removed from any main roads or camping traffic. Finally, the goal was clear: find evidence. And he came prepared. He brought an audio recorder, strategically placed it 3 miles into the wilderness, and then returned to camp, hoping to entice something or someone to follow him back. Watch yourself.
Yeah, this stuff's... Oh. Tall as I am. Taller.
In this segment, he sets up his camp near a quiet stream and explains the plan. Record potential sounds and activity overnight while documenting everything on camera. The area is still and heavy with silence, perfect conditions for any large creature to go unnoticed. As evening falls, the forest begins to change.
Just to say, hey, this is what I saw. I am so bummed. So as far as the description goes, seeing it and thinking about it, I remember seeing something similar to it online like 5 or 6 years ago or something.
Light fades quickly, the wind calms, and the atmosphere grows tense. The camper starts a fire, surrounded by towering trees and distant rustles. But what starts as a peaceful night quickly turns into something else. He begins hearing movement from the tree line, not loud but unmistakable. A steady shifting, deliberate and heavy, just out of sight to his left. This was no deer. "Watch yourself."
And I grab my memory card, I put my memory card in, I get back out, bring it up, and of course, it's gone. It's not there. Yeah, and I scan everywhere, and this is me scanning everywhere, and I'm shaking. You can see how bad I'm shaking. I am just shaking because this is so crazy, but I mean, I don't see anything.
He grabs his newly purchased night vision goggles, still fresh from the box. In a moment of pure tension, he fumbles with the batteries, hands shaking slightly as the sounds from the trees continue. When he finally gets the goggles powered on, he scans the darkness. And there it was, something tall, standing upright, staring Tech. At first it didn't move. Then, slowly, it began to lean.
Okay, this is way lower, but I'm doing live video far away with the video camera, and then I'm also doing a test. Count my steps from here. 1, 2.
Not a sway, a deliberate sideways lean, further than any normal person could go. It straightened up, then leaned again, opposite direction. Back and forth, not rocking, but bending, watching. The figure's proportions and movement didn't align with any known animal. The bending was fluid, but too deep, unnatural. The camper's internal instincts were screaming, "This isn't human," yet his eyes confirmed it was there. "Watch yourself."
At night from the night vision camera, and this is the daytime recreation, and it's not exactly the same, but you know, it's pretty close. This leaning tree's there, this leaning tree's there. My recollection is, you know, it was about probably this head branch tall, you know, which is this over here.
Through the night vision lens, he could see the figure's dark outline, faintly illuminated in infrared. It stood motionless between each lean, as if trying to study him without approaching. The behavior matched numerous eyewitness reports describing Bigfoot's so-called swaying behavior. Though in this case, the creature wasn't swaying, but leaning, peering, evaluating.
But it looks a little different during the daytime. A little bit different angle. I might have been taller here to my eyes versus on the tripod here. So I had 2 cameras rolling at the same time. This side is, you know, just what it looks like with your own eyes, you know, the camera not zoomed in.
The encounter lasted long enough to leave a permanent mark on the camper's memory. There was no charge, no sound, no aggressive gesture, just presence. A silent, towering figure moving in a way that defied logic. Was it curiosity that brought the figure so close? Was it following his trail from the recorder's site exactly as he'd planned?
Okay, this is where I first go, is the farthest way it probably is. It's probably right there. I go to where that tree's leaning over, and then I come back a little closer, I think I come back too close here. And you can see the difference in both.
Or had he trespassed into territory rarely disturbed, and the creature was simply observing? No answers came that night. But the footage, the reaction, and the sequence of events, recorded and documented, add to a growing body of eerily similar encounters. And so, the mystery deepens. What exactly is watching from the woods? It began with a flicker of movement, just enough to pull the human eye toward it, but gone before the mind could register what it had seen. Mireya, Mayer, and Ronnie had been scanning the ridge, their flashlight beams cutting through the dark, when it happened. A tall black silhouette darted from right to left across the illuminated rock face, blocking their light for only a heartbeat. But here's the strange part. There was nothing, absolutely nothing between them and that wall that could have cast a shadow. The figure's presence was undeniable in their beams, yet as quickly as it appeared, it was gone.
Ronnie and I were shining our light up on the ridge because of the rocks coming down, and very clearly something walked in front of that light, creating a shadow. And it's uncomfortable for me because it makes no sense. There was nothing standing between us and that wall that we could see.
Mireya's instincts as a primatologist screamed that what she'd just seen didn't fit with any known animal behavior. This wasn't a deer, a bear, or even a human. It was upright, fast, and unsettlingly deliberate. The moment sank into both of them with a mix of awe and dread. The night around them wasn't still as the rocks tumbled from somewhere further up the slope, echoing into the ravine. Ronnie and Mireya swept their lights again, hearts pounding. The spot where the shadow had moved was now empty, yet they couldn't shake the certainty that something was still there, watching.
I can still hear, what sounds like rock fall right across where we've been hearing these sounds tonight. Ronnie?
Yo,
Did you hear that?
I did just hear something.
We've had some crazy stuff go down already. There might be a potential nest right above this fish trap. Because this activity seems to be all around where we're at. I think we're in the right spot.
They exchanged a quick call with Bryce, describing the encounter. His reaction was immediate. Bryce arrived later, video footage in hand. Using enhanced playback, he replayed the scene in slow motion. The outline of the figure became sharper, a tall form with a distinct conical head, moving smoothly across the wall. The figure was visible when the flashlight beams weren't directly on it, but when illuminated head-on, it seemed to dissolve, as though the light erased it.
I still can't explain what I'm looking at.
Right.
What is it?
I don't
And how does it disappear like that? Because we kept our light on it. You can see us tracking. Look,
there's
even
any
when my
footage.
light is off of it,
Yeah,
you can see something
Yeah.
moving.
Oh, yeah.
But then when my light goes on it, you see it super clearly, and then just like that, it disappears.
Yeah.
This led to an interesting theory that something known in Native American mythology and whispered in cryptid research circles, cloaking. Could a creature like Bigfoot possess the ability to manipulate how it was perceived, bending light in a way that allowed it to vanish in plain sight?
Coastal Salish people talk about these creatures being able to shapeshift, and we've heard the words shadow people used and thrown around. Is that what this is?
So to me, this is evidence of cloaking because we had our flashlights directly across.
Yeah.
There was something in between our lights and that rock wall to make that shadow. And to me, that's a cloaked Bigfoot. It had the classic conical head, the way it moved. These things can cloak, and this is evidence of that.
Bryce pointed out that for a shadow to appear on the rock wall, there had to be something solid between their lights and the surface. But here, the something was only visible briefly, like a phantom slipping in and out of the visible spectrum. A final playback froze the figure mid-stride. It was upright, proportioned like a human but larger, heavier in build. Mireya, skeptical of supernatural explanations, found herself unsettled by the implications. She admitted this was one of the strangest field encounters she'd ever experienced, and an event that went against her training and instincts. The possibility that they had encountered a cloaked Bigfoot was no longer something she could dismiss outright.
About the mystery surrounding that. In just that, I can see this figure very clearly, and the fact that it just suddenly appears and disappears that way, even after we kept our light on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's intriguing for sure. It's just, it bothers me because I can't explain what that is.
Yeah, it boggles the mind, doesn't it?
A lot to think about on this one for me, though.
Yeah.
And yet, despite the footage, despite the undeniable strangeness of the night, the mystery only deepened. The ridge kept its secrets, and what moved in the shadows remained just beyond the reach of certainty.
I really thought this was going to give me the answers I was looking for. And now, even after seeing that footage, I'm no closer to understanding what made that shadow. And that doesn't sit great with me.
Have you ever seen something as a child that stayed with you, not like a memory, but like a mission? For Scott Violette, it happened when he was just 7 years old. Sitting in a movie theater, waiting for the feature to start, the lights dimmed and a short newsreel began to roll. What he saw wasn't fiction. It was the Patterson-Gimlin film, a short silent reel showing a tall, upright creature striding through the woods of Northern California. Watch for yourself.
And I went from being the teenager who was looking for Bigfoot to somebody who's actually doing research. This is our Squatch pod. It's our mobile research lab. Patterson got 13 seconds before his film ran out, and now we can do hours and hours and hours.
That glimpse changed everything. Scott recalls seeing the figure move across the screen and thinking, wow, they are real. From that moment forward, his childhood shifted. Instead of just exploring the forest, he was searching, looking for signs, for prints, for some trace of the creature he saw in that flickering film. As the years passed, that childhood curiosity didn't fade. It matured. Scott began to learn the scientific method, how to test ideas, rule out false leads, and gather evidence with care. He went from a teenager looking for something magical to an adult doing methodical field research. Today, Scott runs investigations from a custom-built mobile lab he calls the Squatch Pod, a place to collect and review audio, video, and environmental data right there in the field. Watch for yourself.
It was filmed by Paul Freeman. He was actually a Forest Service worker.
Yeah, it looked like they'd been here.
We found some footprints, and he was following those.
Oh, there he goes.
That went into the Annals of Bigfoot history, that video there, and that's one of the reasons I enjoy searching.
He contrasts it with the limitations of the past. Patterson had just 13 seconds of film before it ran out. Now, Scott can record for hours, capturing everything from thermal scans to environmental audio. He also uses aerial photography, allowing him to, but for all the gear, all the tools, his philosophy remains rooted in patience. He doesn't chase Bigfoot, he waits. You don't find Bigfoot, he finds you. He'll send people out, spread them across remote areas, and simply sit. No lights, no speaking, just listen. Because, as he says, the woods will come alive for you. In 2 decades of this work, he's had 5 personal interactions, 5 moments where something moved in a way that defied normal explanation. But Scott doesn't speak about them with drama. He speaks with quiet certainty. He often reminds people he doesn't believe in Bigfoot. Belief, he says, is for religion. What he does is study. Examine evidence, follow patterns. Watch for yourself.
Because there is proof and evidence in history here. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've spent a lot of time in the woods. In that 20 years, I've had 5 interactions with Bigfoot.
One of the reasons he focuses his efforts in the Blue Mountains is because of a legendary piece of footage, the Freeman film, shot by Paul Freeman, a forestry worker. In that video, Freeman follows a trail of large footprints in the forest before filming a figure ahead of him. That footage, Scott says, went into the annals of Bigfoot history, and it's part of why he returns to these woods, because history has already left its marks here. As for what Bigfoot might be, Scott keeps his mind open. He doesn't claim to know. Could it be a species of gorilla? A relic hominid? Something ancient that never died out? Maybe even something closer to human than we're ready to admit. Watch for yourself.
I don't really believe in Bigfoot. I leave belief up to religion. I've studied the evidence and found it credible. I think they have a very small population. They're very discreet about being seen by humans. Well, I'm not sure if it's a gorilla or a hominid. It could be a relic hominid. So it could be just like us.
He suspects they live in small, scattered populations and avoid humans by choice, not chance. Their ability to remain undetected may not be luck. It may be intelligence. And so, Scott keeps searching, not with certainty, but with conviction. Because for him, it's no longer a question of belief. It's a question of evidence, and the only way to find it is time in the woods. In the end, maybe the greatest evidence of Bigfoot is its absence. The broken branches, the fading footprints, the footage that almost shows something. But piece by piece, the story is coming together. And if even a fraction of these encounters are true, then the creature we're chasing isn't just real. It's watching, listening, and staying hidden by design. This isn't just folklore anymore. This is strategy, and camouflage might be Bigfoot's most brilliant move yet. Now let's take a detailed look at some real-life camouflage sightings, encounters that raise eyebrows and questions alike. And topping the list is one from a lone hiker deep in the San Gabriel Mountains of Southern California. It was 2020, and the trail was quiet, the kind of silence that makes you more aware of every snap of a twig. A hiker, sensing something unusual nearby, began recording. From a high vantage point, the camera captures a craggy mountain range in the distance. Then, zoom. The lens focuses on one of the evergreens nearby, and that's when something stirs. Partway up the trunk, something or someone seems to be staring back.
The Southern California mountains are amazingly remote and staggeringly rugged. That area is perfect Sasquatch habitat.
A shape, humanoid in form, emerges from the texture of bark and shadow. There's clearly a head, broad shoulders, 2 arms, and what could very well be 2 legs. Whatever it is, it's perched approximately 15 to 20 feet off the ground, almost as if it belongs up there.
From a high vantage point, we see a craggy mountain in the distance. Suddenly, the camera zooms in on one of the nearby evergreens. Partway up the trunk, something or someone seems to be staring back.
Bigfoot sightings are often associated with Northern California, but sightings down south? Not as common, though not impossible. The mountains of Southern California are steep, vast, and strikingly remote. In other words, ideal territory for something to stay hidden.
There are a small number of credible reports of rather large Sasquatches being up in trees or having been seen jumping down from trees. They have the shoulders, the hands, the arms, they're strong, they can pull themselves up. I mean, humans can climb trees, and Sasquatches are just better built humans, essentially, at the end of the day, way more apey than we are, and we're apes.
Interestingly, just 3 years before this footage was captured, another strange encounter occurred just 60 miles away in the San Bernardino Mountains. That doesn't surprise field researchers like Cliff Barackman. According to him, there are a small number of credible reports of large creatures, potential Sasquatches, spotted in trees or even leaping from them. Their anatomy supports the possibility: wide shoulders, long arms, incredible upper body strength. Humans can climb trees. Why wouldn't a creature even more ape-like than us be able to do the same? But here's where the mystery deepens. Bigfoot, as the name suggests, is said to be massive. Some reports claim these beings weigh up to 800 pounds. So then, How could something that heavy climb a tree and remain suspended without shattering the branches beneath it? Either we're seeing something incredibly powerful, or this isn't Bigfoot at all. Our final case takes us back to 1972, deep within the Wind River Mountains of Wyoming. It's a wilderness untouched, unforgiving, and far from civilization. The perfect place to hide, or to encounter something never meant to be seen. John Mionczynski, a naturalist working with the U.S. Forest Service and the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, was stationed in the forest for an extensive field study. He lived alone in the wild. No phones, no neighbors, just the sound of nature echoing through the trees.
I was employed by the U.S. Forest Service in the Wyoming Game and Fish Department on a cooperative study. The project was set up so that I would live in the wild.
But one night, that silence was shattered. As the moon rose over the treetops, Mionczynski felt pressure on the side of his tent. Initially thinking it was a bear, he prepared to defend himself. Until he saw it. Pressed against the thin fabric was a large hand, unmistakably primate in structure, with 4 long fingers and an opposable thumb. But this wasn't human. The hand was twice the size of his own.
Approached by something that cast a shadow. The moon was just coming up, was almost a full moon. I clearly saw a hand with 4 fingers and an opposed thumb, like a human hand, and it was large. It was twice the size of my hand.
He struck the shape, and whatever it was bolted into the shadows. But the moment would haunt him. When he reported the incident, his superiors didn't laugh. Instead, they revealed something chilling. Similar reports had been coming in from the area. John's mission quickly shifted from naturalist to investigator. Over time, he interviewed over 25 witnesses. One account, however, stood out. A man claimed to have shot a Bigfoot near his cabin. The creature fell, then got up, and ran.
Interviewed about 25 people. The most interesting one was a young man in a little cabin up against the mountain. He had reported seeing one of these behaving aggressively in front of his cabin, and he shot it. And he thought he'd kill it, but it got up immediately and ran off.
At the scene, Mionczynski recovered hair samples, which were sent to Dr. Walter Birkby, one of the nation's leading forensic anthropologists. The results? Primate hair, unclassified, and absolutely not from any known local species. Birkby himself admitted, "This is my first stumper. This should have been a breakthrough. Physical evidence of an unknown primate in North America."
The analysis came back a few days later, and Walter Birkby said, and this is a quote, "This is my first stumper. These hairs are primate," and he was certain about that. The result was controversial because the hairy primate is not of an animal native to Wyoming.
The head of the Forest Service's research division issued a warning. If anyone was caught linking their name to Bigfoot, they'd be fired.
Pointing his finger at us and saying, "If your names are ever associated with this word Bigfoot again, I will personally see to it that you're fired."
The scientific community didn't question the evidence. They rejected it outright. Why? Perhaps the idea of Bigfoot is too disruptive. It challenges established paradigms in anthropology, biology, and our understanding of the natural world. But John never wavered. To this day, he maintains the credibility of the evidence, the witnesses, and the encounter. His story and the others we've explored are part of a growing archive of undeniable anomalies. Bigfoot may not want to be found, but piece by piece, its presence is becoming harder to deny. Whether the world is ready to accept it or not, something is out there. It was early October, deep in the Alabama backwoods, the kind of place where daylight fades fast and every sound carries, but you can't tell from where. The man telling this story had hunted these woods for decades. A lifelong outdoorsman, he knew the difference between a bear, a buck, and everything else. He had spent countless mornings before sunrise in the tree stands, evenings tracking deer along game trails, and nights listening to the low calls of owls. The woods were like an old friend, one that spoke in rustles, cracks, and whispers. That evening, the air was cool and crisp. The ground was soft with fallen pine needles, muffling his slow, careful steps. A bow was slung across his shoulder, its weight familiar, a companion on hunts since his youth. Shadows stretched long across the ridges, and the only movement came from leaves drifting down in silence. The scent of damp earth and pine hung in the air, wrapping around him like a quiet warning. He scanned the tree line as he moved, eyes catching on every flicker of motion, a squirrel leaping, a branch swaying, but nothing out of the ordinary. Then, a crack. Not close, but heavy, like something big shifting its weight. He stopped and listened. Another step followed, this time in rhythm with his own. Not a deer, not a hunter. Watch this part.
Okay, now what I wanted to do today was tell you where I received my first Bigfoot report. This was not my sighting. I had my first sighting where I was living at my house many years ago. But this was the first time that somebody come by my house and said, I just saw the giant monkey, was what it was called back then.
His instincts told him to stay still, to let the forest speak. The wind whispered through the treetops, but beneath it came another sound. Measured, deliberate. His breathing slowed, his ears strained. Every nerve seemed tuned to that steady cadence. Up ahead, 50 yards, he saw it. Broad shoulders, dark hair hanging in thick layers down its back. Its arms swung low, past the hips, each movement smooth but powerful. It stepped into a shaft of fading light. For a moment it just stood there, looking right at him. And that's when he saw its face. Not animal, not fully. It looked too human. Watch this moment.
Right up here in this curve was where this thing come running across the road, and the guy that that's what we had heard it was a giant monkey, and that's what everybody in this area called it, and that's what we thought it was. But this guy here, after he saw it that day, he knew that it was not a monkey.
His breath caught, every muscle tightened, caught between the urge to run and the pull of trying to understand. The eyes locked on his were dark and unblinking, holding him still like a deer in headlights. The figure turned, moving up the ridge in long, powerful strides. No sound except the swish of wet grass and the faint crack of branches underfoot. Within seconds, it was gone, swallowed by the trees. He stayed frozen, bow still in his hands. His heart pounded, but his legs refused to move. Even now, years later, he says the same thing. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a man. It was something else.
Okay, now we're up here in the curve, and right here is the bank. Right here is where it slid off, and you could actually, back then it wasn't as covered with pine straw as it is now. But now those woods back out there look pretty much like they did back in around 1971 or 72.
In a place where hunters know every trail and every shadow, something walked that didn't belong. Its gaze lingered in his memory, leaving a question he could never answer. So what was it that watched him from the ridge that night, and how many others have felt the same eyes in the dark? Ever wondered why we try so hard to capture Bigfoot? Why the search demands weeks in the wild, hundreds of hours of footage, and enough gear to outfit a military op? Because something out here is hiding from us, and it's winning. Deep in the woods, bushcraft expert Biko Wright and renowned primatologist Dr. Mireya Mayer follow an unusual trail, subtle breaks in the underbrush, faint impressions in the soil. It leads them not to their target, but back to base camp. What they find is disturbing. The tents have been tampered with, not torn, not shredded, but methodically dismantled, poles removed, fabric untouched. No bear or raccoon could have done this. No storm, no accident. Something or someone had been here.
Makes you wonder if something did this.
And knew exactly what to do. I've had animals damage tents, Biko says, kneeling beside the collapsed shelter. But pulling out the poles clean without tearing the fabric? I've never seen that before.
I've had small animals and even wind tear the material on my tents before. But pulling the poles out completely without tearing any of the material, I've never seen that.
Makes you wonder if something intelligent did this. Dr. Mireya, when animals feel safe enough to wander through your camp, it means you're in the right place. But if this creature is as intelligent and curious as we believe, it may be watching us already.
There is something great about when you set up a campsite that animals feel comfortable enough to go through there. It's also an indicator that there is animal activity here, which is what we want. And in this case, because what we are looking for could be a highly intelligent, curious animal, this is a great sign. I mean, let's go check out those trail cams, because if anything or anyone did come through here, we should be able to catch it on
At least
that.
one of them should have picked up something.
They rush to the perimeter, an arc of trail cams set up to catch movement from every angle. It's a high-tech netcast in a primitive world. If anything crossed their camp, one of these cameras should have picked it up. But that's the question haunting every serious researcher. How does something so large move so silently? How does it avoid every lens, every trap, every eye? And maybe the answer is even more terrifying than we imagined. Maybe Bigfoot's greatest defense is that it's always been watching us first. When you're trying to prove the existence of an elusive creature, you don't leave anything to chance. And that's exactly what Biko Wright and Dr. Mireya Mayer thought when they ringed their entire base camp with high-resolution trail cameras. The logic was simple. If something came near, they'd catch it. They begin reviewing footage, their confidence unwavering. But the first clips reveal nothing. Just leaves rustling in the wind, branches swaying, no deer, no wildlife. Odd in itself given how active this trail usually is. Then, something strange. A faint flicker of light on a distant tree trunk, barely noticeable. Do you see that? Mireya, squinting. It's subtle, some kind of shifting reflection. There's no known source of that light, no explanation. The footage is sent immediately to Bryce Johnson, their tech analyst. Bryce isolates the section and adjusts the contrast and shadows. "Oh, what is that?" he whispers. There, standing in the background, almost hidden in plain sight, is a massive figure. It has the broad shoulders, the head, the frame of something enormous, and yet its body seems to flicker. Its shape is unclear, as if it's semi-translucent or shifting with the light. It's like it's not fully there, Bryce says. Maybe it moved so fast the IR camera struggled to detect it.
It's also almost translucent. I wonder if this thing was maybe moving through the camp in a strange way or really fast, and the IR camera had a hard time picking this up. I mean, you'd have to be super fast to do that. I don't get that at all.
He calls Mireya immediately. I saw it. Head, shoulders, and a body. But it's almost transparent. It's huge. Mireya is stunned. Are you saying it was invisible? Maybe not invisible, Bryce replies, but close. There's something called motion camouflage. Some predators, like big cats, move in ways that keep them hidden from prey. It's real science, and if Bigfoot evolved similar strategies, then silence. The question lingers in the air like a fog in the pines. What if Bigfoot isn't hiding behind trees or darkness? What if its greatest weapon is the way it moves? It started as a simple catfishing trip with a battered cooler, 2 rods, and a quiet bend of the Mississippi that only the most stubborn bank fishermen still bothered with. Once, this stretch was a lively recreation spot, but decades of neglect had turned it into a ghost of itself that cracked pavement, bleeding grass, shattered picnic shelters, and a trail that was so overgrown it felt more like a tunnel through the wild.
If you ever decide to fish an abandoned stretch of the Mississippi River by yourself, do me a favor, keep your knife handy and your head on a swivel. I went in after catfish and almost ended up Bigfoot bait. lashed to a vine-woven raft, drifting damn near to the Gulf of Mexico. Here's what happened. I pulled into what used to be a busy little recreation area tucked way off the beaten path.
That day, the air was thick with mosquitoes and moths. The camper had just settled into the honey hole when movement upstream caught his eye. People, a whole group of them, were stepping out from the tree line where no path existed. They were big, every single one of them, like a family of such athletic build that he had never seen before. The camper kept on fishing and telling himself they would go away, but he could not deny that they were coming closer.
Nobody ever bank fishes that stretch. Stranger still, they seem to materialize straight out of the timber, where there's no cut-in, no trail, no nothing. Only way in should have been the lot I used. They were a ways off, call it a football field. But even at that distance, one thing jumped: big group and big bodies. Looked like one of those giant big bone families where even the 10-year-olds can pass for grown men. I shrugged. Figured they'd found their own secret catfish supper plan.
The closer they came, the stranger it got. Their chatter wasn't English, wasn't Spanish, wasn't even the Cajun Creole thought of the camper. It was a rolling, guttural language that seemed to have a deep boom to it. Then a rock the size of a softball splashed into the water. A warning, maybe, or a test. That's when one of the rods bent like a bow, dragging screaming. Whatever it had hooked was huge. A blue cat, muscling upstream with tremendous power. As the camper was so focused on landing it that he almost missed the sound, which was a shrill, primal scream, as he turned just in time to see one of the kids from that group leap into the river, swimming hard for my line. That is when he realized it wasn't a kid.
But the words froze. That wasn't a boy. That wasn't even human. Standing there on the bank were towering, broad-shouldered, upright, ape-like figures covered in dark, shaggy hair, faces deep-set, heavy brows, wide noses, long arms hanging, a whole family of them, Sasquatches, Bigfoots, whatever name you like. I was looking right at them, and their youngster was now in the river.
Dark, shaggy hair stuck to a muscular frame, long arms cut through the water. On the bank, the rest of the group had come out of the shadow, massive, ape-like shapes with eyes that were deep in the sockets and broad shoulders, a family of Sasquatches. His mind scrambled between disbelief and raw fear as the young one fought with the hook for his fish, tangling itself in the line. The next few minutes were chaotic as the camper was trying to free the creature from the snare, the adults roaring from the shore but refusing to enter the water. Just as he got close, knife in hand to cut the line, pain exploded in the back of his skull.
Instant blackout. I figured the adults saw a steel flash and thought I was fixing to stab their kid. Can't blame them. Wrong move at the wrong second. When I came to, I wasn't on shore anymore. I was flat on my back, wrists and ankles bound in something like braided vines, lashed to a rough, handmade raft, drifting mid-river, sun sinking, wilderness on both sides. Head pounding. Why tie me to a raft? Territorial eviction. Mercy. Message.
Just as he woke up, he realized he wasn't on the bank anymore. His wrists and ankles were lashed with something like braided vines, his body strapped to a rough raft, drifting in the middle of the Mississippi. The sun was setting behind the clouds. Wilderness closing in. Hours passed. He drifted past a small town, then back into black timber. No rescue, no sound but water and the pounding in his head. By the second night, heat and exhaustion blurred everything. Then he saw industrial lights, the rumble of a ship. He screamed until his voice cracked. A member of a ship spotted him, tossed a rope, and hauled him aboard. When they asked what happened, he told them, "Bigfoot family. Kid tangled in my fishing line. Got knocked out. Woke up tied to a raft and sent downstream." They laughed. But he wasn't joking. The river has its secrets, and he knew so did he. Later in this film, we'll dive into the science of camouflage, how it's been used in nature and warfare, and how Bigfoot might have evolved its own form of concealment. But first, let's hear from someone who's come terrifyingly close to the unknown. This is Tommy Biscardi Jr., recounting his first encounter. The setting: a swamp thick with 6-foot reeds and knee-deep water. He and his team had been tracking footprints, 12 of them, fresh and deep in the soil.
We're looking at something that's probably over 500 pounds.
Right around the left of this bluff over here is when I had my first encounter. We had showed up, we had found like 12 tracks in the ground.
With heat-seeking equipment, they spotted something off to the left, 300 feet into the swamp. Tommy wasn't convinced. At the time, he still believed it might just be someone messing around. So, he charged in. I got out to about 150 feet, he recalls, and spotted a black shadow in the reeds. I was already in water up to my knees. The shadow didn't move, not at first. I figured, bear? Maybe. A prank? Possibly. But I had to find out. Then it stood up. Towering, easily 2.5 feet taller than Tommy, and then it sat back down.
Started hearing something off to our left, about 300 feet into the swamp. Well, being my first time out, I said to myself, well, I'm going to go find somebody playing out in the woods here because I don't believe in it. Well, I started rushing through that swamp, got out to about...
Armed with a taser, he moved closer, but the shadow bolted. Not stumbling, not struggling through the swamp, but gliding through waist-deep water with effortless speed. Tommy chased it, expecting a hoax. He believed that if it was a guy in a suit, the water would bog him down. But it didn't, he says. It just kept moving, like the water wasn't even there. Here's the strangest part. It wasn't clearly visible, no details, just a perfectly cast shadow, as if cloaked or blurred by the reeds themselves. And that raises the question, is camouflage the key to Bigfoot's survival, and our inability to ever fully see it? Have you ever walked into a place that felt untouched? Not just quiet, but guarded. Deep in Oregon's private logging lands, behind locked gates and long-forgotten roads, something has been crossing the gravel at night. Twice now, witnesses have reported a towering figure stepping out of the timber, heading toward a place few people ever go. Cliff Barakman and Nico Spadafora call it Easter Island. They gave it that name so they can talk about it without giving away the real location. It's a place of thick forests, game trails, and no casual visitors. With new permits in hand, they finally stepped into hundreds of unexplored acres, hoping to learn why Sasquatches seem drawn here. They start by walking old logging roads, eyes scanning for soft mud that might hold tracks. The air is cool, the forest still. Then, signs of life. Watch this part.
Look at this. This is a game highway. This isn't a one-time travel path or something. This area right here is used a lot. And a neat thing about this is that if you drew a line from where this game highway is to the location on the road where Sasquatches have been seen twice now, it's less than a quarter mile.
They find what Cliff calls a game highway, a wide, worn path cutting straight toward the very spot where both sightings happened. It's less than a quarter mile away. Hoof prints, scat, and bent grass all say this route is used often. And where prey walk, predators watch. They move deeper. A pile of fresh bear scat steams faintly in the shade. Bears mean abundant food, and where bears thrive, Sasquatches might too. A snapped tree catches their eye, its top broken, not twisted, as if something heavy leaned hard against it. No elk marks, no human saw. The road sinks lower, grass creeping over the gravel. Brambles thicken, tangles of Himalayan blackberry, thorned and dense. Perfect cover. Something could lie inside and never be seen.
Lots of snowberry too. Right here, yeah. Don't know why all the berries are still here, none of the leaves, but... Walk right through it all, didn't notice.
A glint of water pulls them forward. They push through until the trees open onto a small pond, ringed with fresh shoots. Deer prints crowd the shore. A narrow trail winds down to the water's edge. From a cliff above, anything could watch the animals below without being seen. Look closely.
Lo and behold, there's a pond down here, and where there's water, there are plants, and where there are plants, there are herbivores, and where there are herbivores, there are their predators.
It's a perfect hunting blind, or a perfect lookout. The cliff also leads back toward the original game highway, but to get there means fighting through steep, thorn-covered slopes. The climb is brutal. Brambles claw at their clothes, thorn tips finding skin. Steep ground forces them to grab at roots and rocks. Halfway up, Nico freezes. Fresh bear tracks in the soft soil. The animal used the same route, likely just hours earlier. The view from the top is worth it. From here, the movement of deer below is clear. The pond glimmering through breaks in the canopy. It's exactly the kind of place a hidden watcher might return to again and again. Watch here.
I thought that looked like a bear trail earlier.
Look at that.
Oh yeah, right there. Yeah.
That's a good shot here. You can see with the light and everything. Yeah. Fantastic.
Cool.
That's a good one.
2 road crossings, a game highway, fresh bear sign, remote terrain with rich food sources. Every piece points the same way. This could be a travel route for Sasquatches. So the question is, how many times has something already stood here, watching? And next time, will anyone be close enough to see it? The LaBarge Creek region of southwestern Wyoming is remote, rugged, and layered in silence. Tucked between pine-thick slopes and winding tributaries, this part of the Bridger-Teton National Forest has seen little change over the decades. Yet for those who've spent time deep in these woods, the stillness holds more than just isolation. In the early 1960s, Michael Nelson was just a child. His family camped often in these backwoods near Clear Creek, a tributary flowing into LaBarge Creek. One afternoon, while heading to the creek to collect water, something unexpected shifted his understanding of the forest forever. Just as he bent near the edge of the water, he became aware of a presence, not from sound, but from the sensation of being watched. Turning slowly, he found himself face to face with a figure standing only 12 inches away. The creature was massive, covered in dark hair, yet with facial features that were mostly bare. Its skin, described as grayish-black, held a texture unlike any human. There was no fur on the cheeks or forehead, and the eyes, wide and deep, stared directly into his. There was no aggression, no movement, only a prolonged, silent gaze that seemed to study him as much as he was studying it.
My father, my sisters, my brother, and I were camped on Clear Creek. It's a drainage of LaBarge Creek. My dad had left camp early to go check on one of the herds and move them to a new feeding location. It was still dark outside, but I was awake and up as usual with him to see him off.
The standoff lasted seconds, yet for a young child, it stretched time. And just as suddenly as it began, the creature turned and vanished back into the forest. That was not the only encounter. Years later, during another family outing in the same area, Michael witnessed what appeared to be the same type of creature. This time it was crouched beside his sister's sleeping bag. The figure leaned over her silently, again with no signs of hostility or violence. It moved away as quietly as it had come.
I woke up in the middle of the night. The sky was clear. I remember seeing the stars and the moonlight, which lit up a large man-like figure that was leaning over, looking at my sister next to me.
These events, as reported by Nelson, were later submitted to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization and shared with the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization for documentation. They remain among the rare cases involving such close proximity, particularly the Clear Creek incident, where the witness claimed to be only a foot from the creature's face. Not far from these events, another account surfaced, this time from a ranch hand working in the LaBarge Creek area. While out tending livestock near a remote tree line, the ranch hand claimed a large bipedal figure emerged from the brush. It moved with weight and purpose, walking directly past him at a close distance. He described thick, dark hair, immense shoulder width, and a height that exceeded any human norm. No words were exchanged. The animal looked once toward him, then continued walking into the timber without a sound.
I'd never heard or thought about Bigfoot or Sasquatch. It wasn't until I heard and saw the Patterson film, and then the frozen body of the monster in the freezer that came through town, that I could have put a name with these creatures or monsters.
Taken together, these incidents suggest something persistent in the area. A presence that's been seen across decades and generations by those living close to the land. No photos, no footage, only memory, impressions in the dirt, and the quiet weight of an experience that never leaves the witness. As always, what exactly was encountered remains unconfirmed. Yet these are not isolated reports. They form a pattern, consistent descriptions, consistent locations, and consistent silence from the forest after the moment passes.
Star Valley area next to Grover State Park. Our property actually buttons up next to that. It was a really remote place when I was a kid. Now there's quite a few more summer cabins and whatnot, but my parents inherited some of that property and we camped there every summer, so I spent most of my summers there.
Could these reports represent an undiscovered species? Or are they something else entirely? Misunderstood, misremembered, or perhaps deeply rooted in human perception? Whatever the answer, the forests surrounding LaBarge Creek remain just as quiet as they were 60 years ago. And whatever moved within them may still be there. The scars remain, but the questions only deepen. Was it truly Bigfoot, or something else entirely? The forest gave no answers, only silence. This case stands unmatched in brutality and mystery. As more reports surface, one truth becomes clear. Something powerful roams unseen. Will you be ready if it comes closer? Who knows how many secrets lie buried in the silence of these mountains? Our next witness story takes us deep into the Cascade Mountains of Oregon, a vast, unforgiving stretch of wilderness, marked with warnings and whispered folklore. This is said to be prime territory for something old, something not quite human. And for one former deputy sheriff, it became the setting of what he believes was nearly the last day of his life. It was one of the most beautiful days he could ever remember seeing in the Cascades. The skies were clear. The air was fresh. He had just finished an early shift and decided to go on a hike, something he hadn't done in a while. He considered himself fit at the time, capable of handling the tough terrain.
Hey man, early. Everything good? Yeah, it's great. I kept the seat warm for you.
On this particular day, I was early getting off shift. It was one of the prettiest days I can ever remember seeing in the Cascade Mountains. It made me want to take a hike.
He hiked uphill for nearly 2 hours, winding through dense trees and uneven ground. Eventually, he reached an area where he could get a clearer view, so he pulled out his compass to get his bearings. That's when he saw it.
I've been walking uphill for 2 hours at least. It was taking a long time because of the terrain. I decided to find a route that would get me into a more open area. When I looked through my compass to take that measurement,
A figure stood in the distance, human-shaped, but unmistakably not human. It had all the parts of a man, a face with a nose, eyes, and mouth, but its proportions were off, wrong. Its presence sent a shock through his spine. It was staring directly at him. Then, something even stranger happened. The creature tilted its head slowly to one side. As if curious, the sheriff, frozen, watched in disbelief. Out of instinct, he reached for his weapon, but before he could react, the creature turned and bolted. The speed at which it moved was impossible. No man, no known animal could do that.
I was totally shocked. I saw a person standing there, but it was clearly not a human being. This thing had a human-like shape to it and a clear place for the eyes and the nose and the mouth, but it wasn't a person.
Curiosity pushed him forward. He kept hiking, although unease had started to creep in. He checked the time and realized darkness would fall soon, and he hadn't brought a flashlight. He decided to turn back. That's when he heard it, a massive snap, like a thick tree limb breaking, loud as a rifle shot. It came from his right. He wasn't alone. The sheriff knew exactly what this meant. It was circling him. It could see him, but he couldn't see it. A second snap echoed through the woods. This wasn't a random encounter anymore. It was tracking him. He rushed downhill, adrenaline now taking over. Then, something stopped him in his tracks. A deer appeared on the trail. It stood frozen, staring toward the sound of the snaps. It raised its nose, sniffed the air, and then bolted, as fast as he'd ever seen a deer run. That's when he felt it. The hair on the back of his neck stood up. He was being watched, not by an animal, not by a man, but by something with intelligence, something playing with him.
I carried on walking for a while, but I was feeling a little nervous. It was darker than it should be for me to get back to the car before dark, and I didn't have a flashlight. I realized I wasn't going to make it unless I turned around right then.
As he reached his car, the snapping sounds continued, but less frequently. And then they stopped. Silence. He remembers thinking, "They've stopped because he's right behind me." He didn't look back. He unlocked the door, got inside, and drove away. He still doesn't know what he saw that day, but he knows what he felt. He was hunted. For centuries, humans have studied the art of concealment on the battlefield. From the bright red uniforms of the British Redcoats to the elite snipers of today draped in ghillie suits, camouflage has become a science of survival. But what if Bigfoot has already mastered this, long before we ever did? The French were the first to enlist artists to design battlefield camouflage during World War I. Since then, soldiers have been trained to manipulate shape, shadow, silhouette, surface, spacing, and movement. The 6 pillars of tactical camouflage. Snipers blend into their surroundings not just with color, but by breaking up outlines, hiding in shadows, and moving with the precision of a predator. Modern soldiers avoid creating silhouettes against the sky, spread themselves out unevenly to mimic nature, and even control scent and sound to avoid detection. It's a complete system of invisibility. Now ask yourself, if an intelligent species had lived in the wilderness for generations, wouldn't it have developed similar instincts, if not better? If Bigfoot exists, its camouflage may not be technological, but primal, rooted in deep fieldcraft. It may not just be hiding, it may be outsmarting us at our own game. We often hear stories of Bigfoot vanishing without a trace, disappearing into the forest like a ghost. But no one ever explains how it happens. Could it be camouflage, shadow play? Or is there a more advanced, almost supernatural method behind it? This next account might offer a clue. A man and his wife were out for a casual bike ride when things took an eerie turn. They began hearing strange animal noises, like a fox scream but much deeper, more guttural. At first he brushed it off. Not being a local, he figured it could be any kind of wildlife. But then, something caught his eye. A tall, dark figure was positioned smartly behind a tree. It wasn't just tall, it was massive. He estimated it stood 8 to 9 feet high, judging by a nearby tree where bark had been scratched off up to that same level. The creature's head lined up perfectly with that mark. When they went to investigate after it fled, the smell was overwhelming, like rotting flesh. So strong, his wife threw up. He's not claiming it was Bigfoot, but after researching the area, he discovered that sightings there are quite common. The place is Muir Woods. Earlier in this documentary, we revealed a particularly strange piece of footage from the San Gabriel Mountains of Southern California. Captured on a clear afternoon, the camera zooms into a tree about 15 feet above the forest floor. Wedged between the branches is a dark humanoid figure, motionless, shadowy, and unsettlingly still. This strange figure, perfectly blending into its surroundings, raised questions we couldn't ignore. Is it possible that Bigfoot or some unknown creature uses elevated positions to hide from human eyes? Is this intentional camouflage, not just ground-level blending, but vertical concealment in the canopy itself? To investigate further, we reached out to experts who have spent decades in the field, people who've studied cryptid sightings, primate behavior, and wilderness camouflage techniques. What do they see when they watch this clip? Is it simply pareidolia, our brains forcing familiar shapes into randomness, or something more deliberate? As we dive into their analysis, this sighting becomes more than just a blurry shape in a tree. It becomes a case study, a possible glimpse into how something intelligent, elusive, and potentially real may be outsmarting us in plain sight. Let's hear what the experts think. The forest had an eerie feeling to it. Darren's voice carried a mix of excitement and unease as he stepped back into the exact patch of wilderness where, just weeks earlier, he'd felt the hair on his neck rise. It wasn't just the memory of the sounds echoing through the brush that creeped him, but it was the knowledge that whatever made them had been close. Too close.
I'm going to be sharing with you guys, the thing was looking at me. The thing was watching me move into that area, and it was hiding in that tree cluster. So I don't know what the Sasquatch's motivation was that day, and I don't think any of us actually know what's going on in their heads. And there's a bunch of researchers out there who are concerned that they may be a little more aggressive.
He recalled the thing looking directly at him. Watching him move into that area while hiding in the shade provided by the trees. That shade wasn't just thick brush. It was a wall of shadow, filled with thorns, the kind of barrier you wouldn't walk into without a reason. But for the Sasquatch, if that's what it was the perfect cover, a place to stay concealed, to watch without being seen. Darren had returned to mark out the landscape, going back the steps he had taken, tagging points on his GPS. At one location, there was a rotting log and stump. He was sure a soldier of some type had been posted to keep an eye on him. From there, the hidden watcher would have had a clear line of sight to Darren's vehicle and to him.
There's something moving around. But I showed you this shot of the brush here. I looked on Google Earth. This brush goes for a significant distance. I think that's one reason the Sasquatch may be hunkered down in this area, just because it's hard to get in if you don't know the entrances to this area. Because look how thick this stuff is.
Reviewing the old footage later, Darren spotted it. Something in the shadows that seemed to shift, to turn, as if adjusting to watch him from a better angle. Blob squatch or not, the movement was real, and it hadn't been the wind. The thought chilled him. Was this creature waiting for him to step just a little too far into its cover? As the bird overhead screamed warnings, Darren powered forward, forcing his way through a tangle of branches. That's when the tapping returned, like coded messages passed between two unseen figures.
And it was concealed in the vegetation, so it could have easily ambushed me. And as I mentioned, I was having that concern. And as I moved around that brush area, as I was trying to power through that brush, I was getting to a location that was too thick in vegetation, and that thickness in vegetation was this tree cluster where the Sasquatch was hiding. So it was probably a really good thing that I turned around.
Darren concludes the video by knowing that one was in front of him and one was behind him. They could have easily taken him out if they wanted to, he shared. He stood there now, the air cold and still, wondering if the watchers were back, or if they'd already moved on, melting into another patch of wilderness where their shadows could swallow the next curious intruder whole. Have you ever followed a trail in the snow, not knowing what made it? Not a deer, not a coyote, something heavier, something that walks like us, but isn't us. That's the thought that crossed Mark's mind on a quiet back road in the mountains. Snow still clung to the ground, but not everywhere. Patches had melted, leaving bare dirt in strange shapes. That's when he saw it. A print, broad, deep, fresh. At first he thought bear. His boot almost fit inside, but the shape was off. The toes looked wrong. The track crossed the road, then slid down into a narrow cut in the hill. Watch this part. Mark from Colorado Bigfoot knows these signs.
Must be a bear. Big old bear. Look, he's really big, you guys. Yeah, I can see his paws and everything. Look at the size of him. You guys, my whole foot just about fits in his. Look at him, he came down that road. This is probably, it could be up to a week or two old. And he went over to there.
He's filmed in these woods before. A few months earlier, he found a strange clearing here. Open ground with nothing growing, almost a perfect circle. He followed the prints into the bare dirt. The snow was gone, but the trail was easy to see. A lean-to of broken branches stood just off the road. Same as before. Same spot. He walked 100 yards uphill. More signs appeared. Fresh breaks in limbs, dirt piled over sticks, shapes that looked arranged. The air felt heavy. The forest was still. Not a single bird called. Watch this. Mark found a triangle made from logs.
Look at that footprint. Look at the front of it. You guys, look at that. Right there. You see it? It's the front is like a real, that's a footprint. The problem is, this dives down at the back. Look at that, look how big. Yes, yes. Thank you, somebody, thank you.
Then a cluster of tridents. 3 thick branches joined at the base, all pointing the same way. On the ground, a deep, long print stood out. Wider than his boot, too wide for a bear. Then it came. A whistle, soft, far away. It sounded human. Mark stopped, listened. The whistle came again, quick, almost mocking. Then it was gone. Play this.
That's a human whistle. I mean, maybe like the best person in audio will hear it, but they're right up there. Hold on, let me breathe. I hold my breath when I zoom and I'm already out of breath. There's this ridge line up there. It's right above. If you were to take that ridge line down, all the way down to that corner, I heard it again, you would end up at the baby's head. So I'm very close to the baby.
The tracks led to a strange path through the undergrowth. Fallen logs lay side by side, all lined up in the same direction. Mark calls this a Sasquatch highway, a route used over and over until it's clear as a road. He's been in places where the woods feel alive, where he leaves drained, zapped, as he says, like something has pulled the energy from him. But here, it felt different, empty, and that emptiness was worse. Still, the bear tracks were fresh. They had crossed the snow at the edge of the trail not long ago. Somewhere in the pines, a real predator was close. But the signs, the prints, the structures, the whistle, were not a bear's. Mark has walked many wild places, but this one left him unsettled. The forest here doesn't shout. It whispers, and sometimes the silence speaks louder than any sound. So what do you think? A lone bear, a hidden person, or something much older walking these mountains long before we did? A quiet snow fell heavy overnight, blanketing the North Country with a thick white coat. Shelby and Chad stepped outside their cabin, ready to tackle their daily chores. But something unusual caught their eyes. Huge footprints pressed deep into the fresh snow right by their gate. What made these prints stand out wasn't just their size, but the long, powerful strides between each one. Could it be Bigfoot wandering their property again? The tracks wound around the north side of their land, a spot where strange things had happened before. Shelby's voice was calm but curious as she showed the massive prints beside her own size 13 boot, barely fitting inside one of the impressions. The snow around was at least 3 feet deep, and even Chad struggled to move through it. But however heavy the snow, whoever or whatever made these tracks had moved with ease. They hadn't been there the night before. The snow had fallen after their last check, meaning this visitor came in just hours before they found the tracks. The snow had partially covered the prints now, evidence of how fresh this mysterious presence was. Shelby grabbed their snowshoes, knowing they would need them to follow the trail without sinking deep into the snow. Play here.
Going around our gate, this is the north side of our property. This is where we've always seen stuff take place up here. You guys can check out a couple of our other videos, like North Country Sasquatch is one of them, or North Country Bigfoot.
Real quick, guys, if you hate the Cleveland Browns, hit that subscribe button.
As they walked carefully, each step sank heavy. The forest was silent, except for the crunch of snow beneath their boots. The tracks led past the gate and into the thick woods beyond, disappearing into the shadows where the trees grew close. The feeling was strange, both exciting and tense, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Their videos from past seasons showed similar signs: large footprints, glimpses of dark shapes moving just beyond sight, and strange noises caught on camera. This place held stories, whispers of a giant hidden in the trees, but seeing the prints up close made it real. The snow seemed to capture a moment frozen in time, a visit from something big and unseen. As they followed the trail, Shelby and Chad talked quietly about what it might be. A bear? The tracks were bigger than any bear they'd known around here, and the strides too long. Something else was moving here, something that left its mark in the snow like a silent warning. The woods grew darker as the sun dipped low. The cold air bit sharper. Suddenly, a faint whistle echoed through the trees. Soft, almost human, but strange. Shelby paused, heart quickening. Could it be a signal? Or just the wind playing tricks? The tension hung thick like the falling dusk. Watch this part.
Heading up to the north side of our property. Let's get out and take a look at them real quick. So if you guys have seen our videos, some early videos, there has been some interesting stuff taking place, some Bigfoot-like. Look at those tracks right there. So those tracks are going around our gate. This is the north side of our property. This is where we've always seen stuff take place.
They pressed on, feeling watched, wondering if the visitor was close, just out of sight. The snow showed more signs: broken branches, disturbed dirt, like a trail left behind by something careful but large. Watch this part.
See how big those strides are. Should we walk them? Let's walk next to them. Holy jeez. So these weren't here yesterday evening when we had come home. And they're snowed in. So this, whatever this was, came through here last night. And then, we're gonna have to go get the snowshoes. This stuff's too deep.
By now, their breath was visible in the cold air. The trail ended near a clearing, where snow-covered structures of sticks and rocks lay scattered, arranged oddly, as if someone had placed them there. Was it a marker, a message, or simply the forest's natural order disturbed by a giant's presence? Watch this part.
Interesting up on the 5. We're gonna have to go get the snowshoes. I'm just punching through that too far. It's way too hard to get through there. You can look at my snow. So much of a mess I make. Whatever that is long and tall. We're gonna go get snowshoes and we'll go follow those and see where they go. We're going to go hunting Bigfoot.
With the night coming fast, Shelby and Chad made their way back to the cabin, minds racing with questions. What had they really found? Was it a bear? Or something else? Something bigger that walks these woods when no one's looking? The snow might hide footprints, but it cannot hide the truth for long. And here, in the quiet cold of the North Country, the mystery waits, silent and deep. What do you think left these tracks? Have you ever felt watched in the woods? This footage has left experts and viewers stunned. A silent witness to something unknown. It wasn't supposed to be recorded, yet here it is. An unblinking eye into a hidden world. What do you think you saw? Proof or illusion? Share your thoughts below and join the search for answers. Sometimes the quietest moments hold the loudest secrets. Down East Maine is a place where the trees grow thick, the lakes stretch silent, and the air feels older than memory itself. They had no set destination, just the faint pull of a remote spot where reports had whispered of strange encounters. By the time the team found itself beside an empty lakeshore, miles away from the nearest road, the sun was setting and the stillness somehow felt expectant.
Pure white lights that come out, do a little dance, and then pew, just wink out. The temperature was like 45 degrees, way too early for fireflies. Not the right color, white, not that yellowish that the fireflies do.
That's when Lady K noticed them first. Small, pure white lights moving between the trees. Not fireflies, not in this cold, and not that color. They danced briefly, as if curious, before fading into the dark. Michael thought it must be a trick of the eye until she described seeing the exact same thing. On the far side of the lake, a pale haze began to rise from the trees, glowing faintly before dissolving without a sound. There was no moon, no source, only the growing feeling that the forest was watching. They set up camp on the ground near the water's edge, the didgeridoo humming low into the night air. The sound seemed to travel, carrying across the lake into the timber beyond, but not without an answer.
We saw some strange lights last night in the trees. You can't see anything. Look how foggy it is. You can see a little bit over there.
From somewhere deep in the darkness came a sudden boom so loud it shook the quiet. Not gunfire, but the sound was deeper, older, resonating through the ground. Minutes later came the sound, clack, 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 clack. Lady K compared it to rocks being struck together in a deliberate pattern. The noise stopped as suddenly as it started, leaving the night heavier than before, as though whatever made it had just stepped back into the shadows. The strangeness didn't stop there. While exploring the shoreline the next day, they stumbled on something no one could explain. They were massive granite formations, each stone straight-edged as though carved, stretching 30 or 40 feet, set into the earth in a place where there have been no quarries for thousands of years.
And it's straight on both sides of the rock, like... Yes! I am. Look how weird this is. I'm having a hard time paddling with one hand backwards and operating the camera at the same time.
The formation was too uniform to be natural, almost like part of an ancient road swallowed by the forest. No roads led here. No settlements were marked on any map. And yet, here it stood, silent, enduring, and out of place. That night's events would follow our explorers for long after they left. The glowing lights in the trees, the unnatural stonework, the deep echoing reports, and the rock clacking that seemed to answer back. Alone in that wilderness, it was impossible to ignore the truth that crept in like fog off the lake. That something knew they were there, and it wanted us to know it too. Deep in the forest, something massive moved. Not an animal, not a person. A shape, on the thermal lens, too large, too upright, too deliberate. Dr. Mireya Mayer locked eyes on it first. Just a shadow at the start. But then it stood up, tall, solid, and watching. She wasn't alone, and neither was the team. The footage from Expedition Bigfoot on the Travel Channel captured it all. See for yourself. Watch this part right here.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yep. That thing is back. Oh my God. Ronnie, it's standing up. Ronnie, can you hear me? Ronnie, can you hear me? Ronnie!
Maria!
There's something moving over there.
That heat signature? That's no ordinary wildlife. They tracked the heat, but what they didn't expect was how many there were. 4 enormous signatures moved just beyond the tree line. They weren't fleeing, they were circling, pacing, heads poking from behind trees, almost like they knew they were being watched. Suddenly, the signatures began to vanish, fading, shrinking, dissolving into white orbs of light. One by one, the forms shifted until they were just small, glowing spheres, as if the creatures weren't walking away, but transforming. Watch this clip closely, right here.
Don't see it with my flashlight. But this heat signature is so big that it's coming through a huge shrub.
How big does it look?
Is it on... It's getting smaller. It's getting smaller. And the bottom part is looking more and more faint and transparent.
So it's literally changing shape before your eyes.
It's changing shape. It's getting smaller and starting to disappear. Hold on. No.
It's impossible to explain, yet there it is on camera. Shape-shifting silhouettes dissolving before their eyes. Then came the sounds. A high-pitched whistle, long and sharp, echoing through the woods. No coyote, no known animal. Just a chilling, melodic call no one could identify. As the team stood frozen, every hair on their arms stood straight up. Something was moving around them, staying just out of sight, yet always watching. The forest wasn't empty. It was alive with presence. Something was following them, and it wanted them to know.
Ronnie, what was that?
I don't know. I've never heard anything like that. Ever. That was crystal clear.
There's no way that was a coyote.
That had more of a whistle, long-term whistle.
But it wasn't just heat signatures or eerie whistles. The ground held its own proof. Russell Acord made the discovery. A line of massive, barefoot prints in the mud, pressed deep and wide. 18 inches long, clear heel strikes, toes splayed perfectly in the dirt. No human had walked this remote stretch barefoot in the dead of night. The tracks didn't just walk, they emerged directly from the water, as if something heavy climbed onto shore, paused, then headed straight back into the forest. Take a look at this.
Straight up right now. Something has moved through here. Oh my, look at this. Holy, look at that. That is a footprint.
You'll see it. That footprint isn't just big. It's impossible to fake at that scale. When the full team arrived, they followed the tracks. A trail that led from riverbanks deep into dense brush, each print spaced with a stride far too long for any human. 16 inches, then 18, leading straight to the tree line. It was clear. Something enormous had passed through, and recently. See the moment, right here.
Here's where it gets really strange. Tell me what you see in front of me.
Oh my God.
These are fresh from last night. Whoa. If you look in the water behind it, looks like an impression in the water back here. Ooh. This thing literally appears to have come out of the water and onto this bank. These toes are crystal clear. Oh my God. Look at where we are right now. What are the odds of somebody walking through here with bare feet? Right. And look just above it.
The stride, the depth, the sheer size, undeniable. Multiple creatures on thermal, strange lights, sounds that don't match any known species, and enormous footprints. It's no longer just a story whispered around campfires. The signs are there, and this time the cameras caught them. But the bigger question remains. What creature walks on 2 legs, vanishes into light, leaves colossal prints and whistles from the dark? Have you ever wondered what's hiding in the forests of Western Virginia, just beyond the ridgeline? Not far from the border of West Virginia, a hunter named Roger Williams was preparing for deer season. Like many hunters, he used trail cameras, motion-triggered devices strapped to trees to monitor wildlife. In these quiet Appalachian woods, he didn't expect anything out of the ordinary, but what one of his cameras captured made him stop cold. Watch yourself.
On our way to meet the guy named Roger Williams, his hunting club got a very interesting photo of something which could be a Sasquatch.
It's opening day of deer season, a time when wildlife scatters, sensing the change. And while hunters ready themselves for whitetail, another kind of mystery begins to unfold in the shadows. A photograph, taken quietly in these ridges thick with bear, deer, and old mountain silence, has stirred debate. Is this a young Sasquatch, or simply a bear caught in a strange posture? The image is raw, unclear, yet strangely suggestive. Broad shoulders, long arms, defined glutes, traits not typical of a bear. Locals speak of strange growls echoing across Kaywood Reservoir at 2 a.m., movements in the dark, a sense of something else watching from deeper in the timber. Roger stared at it for hours. "It's not a deer, not a hog. It's not what I usually get on camera," he said. When the Finding Bigfoot team arrived, they looked at the area firsthand. What they saw was typical Bigfoot country: remote hollows, deer trails, clean spring water, and dense cover. All the ingredients for a reclusive, intelligent creature to live undetected. Opening day of deer season had just started, so wildlife in the area was already behaving differently. As Roger explained, deer tend to move toward no hunting zones when pressure increases. The team speculated, if Bigfoot exists and preys on deer, it would likely follow the herds into those safe zones. That strategy, they believed, could explain why sightings increase around hunting season. Reactions to the image varied. Some said it was a juvenile bear. Others weren't so sure. The limb proportions looked off, the arm long, the heel visible. What made Roger pause most wasn't just the shape, it was the glute muscles. "Bears don't have butts like that," he joked, but there was a serious anatomical point there. Many Bigfoot witnesses report a stocky, muscular build with a noticeably broad posterior, something missing from any known North American mammal. Watch yourself.
I've seen bears in all different situations. Looking at this photograph, I see nothing but a black bear. It's exactly what the fur looks like.
To test the figure's scale and form, Bobo recreated the shot. He crouched in the same location, trying to match the posture exactly. They compared both images. Bobo's shoulder width, leg bend, and limb thickness were different. Despite being a grown man, his proportions didn't quite match what was captured. The trail cam figure remained an outlier. Too small for a man, too human-like for a bear. Adding to the mystery, Roger recalled a separate incident from just over the ridge at Kaywood Reservoir. A solo camper heard something vocalizing deep in the woods around 2 a.m. Not a coyote, not an owl. A chesty, resonant growl that rose and fell like speech. It happened 3 times. Then silence. The sound echoed across the water. No one else was around. Could it be connected? It's easy to dismiss blurry images or strange sounds, but sometimes it's the subtle patterns that raise the most compelling questions. Deer move, bears forage, but something else may be watching, shifting with the seasons, staying just far enough away. So look again. What did Roger capture that day? A curious bear? A trick of light? Or a young Sasquatch caught mid-movement, unaware that it had just been seen? Next up, we explore a chilling discovery that raises more questions than answers. This footage comes from Alfred Martinez, whose friend frequently records videos focused on wilderness survival. During one of his usual editing sessions, something strange caught his attention. Something he hadn't noticed while filming. In the video, the guy is out in the snowy wilderness, casually chopping wood. Everything appears normal, until he turns his head toward the camera. That's when it happens. A faint figure appears behind him, almost invisible to the naked eye. At first glance, it looks like a distortion, maybe a glitch in the lens. But as the clip continues, the shape remains, subtle, humanoid, and motionless. It blends so perfectly into the surroundings that it's hard to tell whether it's a shadow, a trick of the light, or something much more unsettling. When slowed down, the figure becomes slightly clear. It's not cloaked or hidden behind trees. It's standing in plain sight, and yet it's nearly impossible to notice without close inspection. What kind of camouflage is that? Is this Bigfoot's most terrifying ability? The power to become nearly invisible? If so, this could be the best proof yet of its ability to vanish without a trace. Some encounters leave a mark not in photographs or footprints, but in memory. Quiet, unshakable moments that stay with you long after they've passed. This real-life account comes from the YouTube channel Salish Sasquatch, where true experiences from the forests of the Pacific Northwest are shared in the witness's own words. It's told by Jack Bowers, who was just 15 when he first heard of an event that would stay with his family forever. A night when a Sasquatch tried to enter his family's home in the quiet coastal town of Fort Bragg, California. The night was still, the kind where every sound seems louder. Outside, the air was cool with a faint smell of salt drifting in from the ocean. Inside, the family was gathered when slow, heavy steps began to move toward the house. They weren't quick or clumsy. They were steady, deliberate, each one pressing into the earth as if something very large was approaching. When the figure appeared, it stopped just short of the porch light. Its shape filled the shadows, tall, broad, unmoving. It didn't knock. It didn't speak. For a moment, it simply stood there, as though listening, deciding. Then it shifted slightly, as if testing the space between them and the door. Watch yourself.
In their home, in the middle of the night, actually at 4 o'clock in the morning, and that is important to us, and I think it's important to the Bigfoot community at large. And that's why I'd like to record this, so that my son and my wife and the rest of my family and other people will have at least our understanding of it. And I was about 15 and a half or 16.
Jack wasn't there that night, but hearing the account firsthand at such a young age etched it deep in his mind. It wasn't just a story told around a campfire. This was family. This was real. And as he grew older, he would have his own brushes with the unknown. In Washington state, Jack spent time in dense forest country, places where the light fades quickly and the air holds a hush that feels almost alive. On one trip, he recalled hearing a branch snap deep in the timber, not the crack of something small, but the sound of weight shifting through the undergrowth. He stopped walking, straining to hear. That's when a deep, chesty exhale drifted from somewhere ahead. See this moment.
Shut. It wouldn't click, and it was just a screen door anyway. The Bigfoot, I'm going to use that expression because later on that's what it is, obviously, came up to the door. It was taller than the door by quite a little bit, and when doors are, 78?
Another time, in the same region, faint movement caught his eye. Between two thick cedar trunks, a shadow slipped out of sight, as if it knew it was being watched. Jack never saw its face, but the speed and silence of its retreat felt wrong for any normal animal. Watch here.
Add or subtract to it, from it, it just was what it was. What had happened also at that encounter, we'll use that, at that particular encounter, the animal had put his hand on the sill and left a hand print on the sill. Now that handprint was sketched.
Now years later, Jack still carries those moments. The night in Fort Bragg, the sounds in the Washington timber, the flicker of something more than shadow. None of it left a mark in photographs. None of it was caught in clear evidence. But it lives on, in memory, in the telling, and in the quiet spaces where the forest holds its secrets. What would you do if you were the one standing there, knowing something was watching you from the dark. In the remote stillness of Harwood Forest, Northumberland, one man set out to spend a solitary night under the dense canopy of an ancient woodland. Known for its moody atmosphere and rich history, Harwood has long been a magnet for hikers, campers, and those seeking silence. But on this night, something else stirred beneath the pine-covered slopes.
Welcome back to the channel, Mandingos. Today I'm out by myself. Unfortunately, little Mick can't make it. I called for him this morning, I knocked on his door, and his dad said he's been up all night ill. So, you're gonna have to put up with me, by myself today. This is where I'm at.
The journey began at Winter's Gibbet, a bleak and windswept location tied to one of Northumberland's darker historical episodes. The wooden structure, perched against a backdrop of grey skies, marks the execution site of William Winter in 1792, an ominous choice for a starting point.
So I'll have to be careful where I set up. Should be great. Anyway, first we're going to check out a little bit of history over there. Let's go. See you in a sec.
But for the host of the Blot Outdoors show, it was all part of the experience. He hiked deeper into Harwood Forest, carefully selecting a clearing to pitch his tent. The surroundings were quiet, almost unnervingly so. Only the wind sifting through the trees and the occasional call of a distant bird broke the silence.
I've just been sitting quiet, drinking me can, and I can't hear a thing. So, I think I'm just far enough away from them. Hopefully they don't start messing about later on.
As dusk settled, he prepared his evening meal, a couple of burgers, 2 Cornish pasties, and other simple comforts. Spirits were high, and plans were in place to enjoy the night, including a whiskey tasting. But as daylight faded, so did the calm. The first sign that something was off came quietly. 2 Cornish pasties were missing, then some meat.
And I'm going to eat well tonight, Mandingos. I've got the usual chorizo, peppered salami. I've got myself a couple of Cornish pasties.
At first, the explanation seemed simple, perhaps careless placement or animals. But the food had been inside the camp area, seemingly undisturbed by wildlife. He had passed a group of young campers earlier in the day. Suspicion pointed there, though no confrontation took place. As darkness fell, the mood changed. Watch yourself.
I'll know there's a better spot. We'll have a mooch about and we'll see what's about.
Low tapping sounds began to echo just outside the tent. Not a branch falling, not the breeze. Deliberate, close. The kind of sound that suggests intent. Then silence, that heavy, watching kind. The camera captures the moment clearly. Tense breathing, hesitation, and then a decision to unzip the tent and look.
To be honest, everywhere I've seen so far is no better than what we've already got. I'll go up a little bit further here.
A flashlight sweeps the darkness, catching only swaying trees and empty ground. No eye shine, no movement, but the feeling of being watched lingers. Later, a clearer explanation surfaces. The host's close friend, known to viewers as Little Mick, emerges from the shadows, revealing that he had followed the expedition in secret, intending to play a prank. Dressed in a makeshift costume,
Do you know what I mean? I've been shiting myself all night in the woods here, and it's little Mick all the time, taking the piss out of us.
he'd staged the eerie tapping and stolen the food, mimicking the signs often reported in alleged Bigfoot encounters. Watch yourself.
Can't even find your tent. Hey, what the f*** there? What the f*** is this? Man. It's strange. Sorry for the language, guys. 2 Cornish pasties and meat's gone. I mustn't like peppered salami, that's still there.
Laughter follows. Tension dissolves. But what remains is a striking demonstration of how easily the human mind, even in control, can be pushed toward uncertainty in the forest's isolation. In the final segment, the two sit beside a low-burning fire, reviewing the Woodsman blended Scotch whiskey. The taste, bold, oaky, with a smooth finish. Rated a firm 8.5 out of 10.
You smell like a toffee vanilla smell.
Aye. Vanilla.
Anyway, that's enough of the sniffing. Let's go on with the tasting. Rights.
But the experience of the night, both real and orchestrated, left a lasting impression beyond the campfire glow. Harwood Forest is no stranger to legends. From local folk tales to unexplained sightings, its dense tree lines and hushed clearings provide fertile ground for mystery. Though this encounter was ultimately explained, it raises a larger question. How often do we dismiss strange happenings as jokes, pranks, or tricks when they might not be? Watch for yourself.
Hi folks, I know I'm being silly. Just, you know, when you're in the woods or something like that and you get that horrible feeling you're not by yourself. That's what I got. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the tent now. We'll continue the Wasky review in the tent. That way I'll feel a bit safer. I know I'm just being daft, but anyway, let's go in the tent and we'll do the Wasky review there. You know, makes sense.
What if no one had revealed themselves? And how many so-called hoaxes have left behind traces that still defy explanation? In the wild, even laughter can leave shadows.
Why, it looks like a Sasquatch, Mick. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. Obviously, as you can tell, we've had a good time.
A voice answers back, not from a person, not from any known animal, but from something ancient, something to watch. It happens while the camera's rolling, while footprints are being documented just feet away. You hear it. A low, deliberate vocalization cuts through the quiet, captured in real time by Sasquatch, Ontario. No static mic, no overnight recorder. This was live, present, proof. See for yourself, right here.
Toe to heel is not very big. 9 inches?
I don't know. I think it's the same individual back and forth here. Except for this one. Look at this. I gotta get tape. Oh no, I got the tape measure right there. Okay, hold on. Let me
I don't even know. I'm just saying over here.
Okay. There's one right there. Oh, I can kind of see the trackway. Alright. Okay, I'm stopping this remote.
The Ninyanin vocal rings out like a warning and a welcome all at once. It wasn't the only sign. Lying just ahead, a single footprint pressed into the earth like a signature. Not just any print, 21 inches long. The big guy, as they call him, had been here 2 nights in a row, and this was his mark. The impression was deep, wide, and undeniable. No mistaking it for an accident of nature or a misread animal track. This was deliberate, powerful, evidence of something massive. Take a look at this.
There's a single adult print and the rest are all the young ones. No, I think that's the same one. Same individual doing this trackway here. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So that's with Neff, that one, that's 1, 2, 3, that's 4 family members showed up tonight.
That footprint tells a story all its own. The shape, the width, the defined toes, all there, speaking to something more human than animal. As they kept moving, more prints appeared. Tracks from multiple family members, each different in size but all following the same unseen path. The smaller ones interspersed with giants, as if a family group moved together just out of sight, brushing past trees, watching from shadows. They left their marks as if to say, "We're here with you, step for step." Watch this clip closely, right here.
We have company right now. They're throwing snowballs at us. We have one of the adults with a 21-inch footprint. That's got to be 12 feet tall.
That's not the big guy, though.
Yeah, the big guy was 20 inches last time. 20. That's 21 now.
The trail of prints leads through untouched terrain, proof that what's being heard isn't imagination. But it's the voice that lingers. The Ninyanan vocal, captured in the open, reinforces what the native cultures have always said. The Sasquatch are not just physical beings. They are ancient people, masters of consciousness, moving between realities we barely understand. Every vocalization, every print, every shadow confirms that they operate on a level beyond what science dares admit. And yet here it is, recorded, documented, undeniable. The forest may seem quiet, but it listens, it speaks back, and sometimes it leaves proof you can't ignore. See for yourself, right here.
Yeah, and that is snowballs from them. And that was a 21-inch footprint and a almost 12-inch footprint. And earlier we had about a 9.5-inch footprint and a 16-inch footprint. And the 16-inch was Neff, which is 4 inches of growth since this all started.
The voice, the prints, the eerie sense that you're never alone in these woods. It's not just tracking anymore. It's interaction, contact, evidence that shifts everything we thought we knew. So the question hangs. If these beings are this close, this present, with knowledge far beyond ours, how much longer can the truth be kept hidden? It hit fast, a shift in the air, like the forest suddenly woke up. You know that feeling, like being watched but no one's around. That's how it started. The guy heads out to a spot he's camped before. Same trail, same creek, same cave.
It's literally sand converting into rocks. That was really nice. I would have loved walking on sand. Imagine if this was all a beach. That would have been a lot better. Not gonna lie, I think I found another way that would have helped me a little better than this angle.
But this time, the forest wasn't quiet. It was waiting. The pink children's shoes on the ground, no explanation. The slack line stretched up the cliff, not there last time. And then the sulfur smell, rotten, sharp, like something marking territory. Something wild. See for yourself.
It's so spooky over here. It's so quiet.
I know, right?
Like, you don't hear anything on this side at all. It smells weird. You smell that?
Yeah, what is that?
It smells like sulfur. I didn't smell that the first time. If there is sulfur here, you would have probably smelt it last time too.
Sulfur, yeah, 100%.
You smell that? It's kind of sulfuric.
Yeah.
Almost smells like a skin foot to go fart or something. I don't even know.
He tries climbing. First attempt. He slips. Something shrieks from the top. Not an owl, not a coyote. Too sharp. Too big. He backs off. Leg shaking. Tries again. Second time. It happens again.
Oh, f***. Oh, f***. Oh, f***. How am I gonna get down? Holy shit, I'm actually like freaking out right now, guys. The f*** was that? What was that? What was that? Ah.
Same spot. Same sound. Louder. He panics. The rope snags his ankle. He drops. Hard. His leg twists. Pain flashes through him. But worse, something's moving above. It's close. Here's what the camera actually captured.
Ah, I literally tripped and like bent my leg back. Ah. Oh. Ah. The rope just tied around my freaking leg. Oh. Holy shit. I can't do it.
He finds a hardened puddle, smells like urine, but thick, gooey, placed, and fresh. The camera picks up his breathing, fast, shaky, then a screech, long, ripping through the trees. Something's up that ridge, watching, waiting. He starts talking to it, like it's a person. Who's up there? But it's not a person. You can hear it in his voice. He's trying to believe that, but his gut knows better. Take a look at this.
I'm getting attacked by like moths and stuff. Jesus. I'm getting such an uncomfortable feeling. Who's there? Holy shit. What was that? Holy shit. I'm gonna go after it. No.
He climbs higher, night vision on. Moths hit his face. The scream comes again, closer this time. He falls. Rope lashes his leg again. He groans in pain, downhill now, fast. But the scream doesn't stop, neither does the movement. At the bottom, he catches his breath. "I think I just found its home," he says. And he's right. There's no sound like that unless something's protecting something. Later, back near base, he and Angela regroup, both of them shaken. She went inside the cave alone. He tried climbing. Both heard voices, chatter, movement. Even now, something is still trailing them. Owls mimic, but not like that. Watch this clip closely. The hoots are circling, one to the left, then behind, then right on top of them. They know this isn't random. They say Bigfoot can mimic calls. Owls, coyotes, even voices. He's limping now, flashlight shaking. Keeps hearing things, catches a figure peeking from the ridge, again. Same place, it's guarding that cave. He's not going back, not until sunrise. And maybe not even then. This footage says it all.
Yeah, are you good?
I'm not really. I'm good, man. Can you reach?
Yep.
There you go. Oh, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Jesus.
Fuck me.
Angela stumbles out, pale, shaking. "Something's in there," she says. And you can tell. She's not being dramatic. She's trying not to cry. Neither of them is okay. They both saw something, heard something, and it wasn't alone. They limp back to camp. Coyotes howl nearby. The path they took earlier? Blocked now. As if the forest shifted behind them. As if something didn't want them coming back. The video ends with silence. No explanation, just fear. And the feeling that whatever was out there, it's still watching. Have you ever camped somewhere so quiet, so remote, that every sound feels magnified? In this video from the Hoggett Project, the camera takes us deep into the wilderness near Mount Rainier, where a peaceful solo camping trip quickly turns into something strange. It all starts with a view too good to ignore. Perched with a clear view of Mount Rainier's snow-capped peak, the camp is chosen more for its scenery than for its security. It's quiet, still, and seemingly untouched, until something in the woods starts knocking. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Not mechanical, not random, just knocking. At first, the only sign of something unusual is in the trees, a strange bundle of what looks like hair tangled in the bark. It's coarse, dark, and oddly placed, the kind of find that makes you pause. Watch yourself.
This is some kind of hair, it looks like, woven in with some tree bark. I don't know what that is.
Nearby, there's a bedded-down patch of forest floor. The shape is circular and wide enough for something large to have rested there. Not deer, not elk, no fur or hoof marks. Just the impression, and the sense that whatever had been there might still be close.
So, didn't even really take a look over here at this side. That's all bedded down, so it looks like some animals took some cover, especially right here. That's a nice little circular spot.
The setup continues. A tent is raised, a fire pit prepared. Light fades fast in the mountains. As night comes on, thermal and infrared gear are brought out. This isn't just camping, it's observation. The tech includes a black hot thermal setting, where anything giving off heat appears dark on screen. Hands glow black, trees stay pale. The forest reveals what the eye misses. Watch yourself.
It's on black hot, which means anything black being recorded is supposedly hot. And you can see there's my hand, so that's what you get.
At the edge of camp, movement, brief, just a flicker across the thermal viewfinder. It's enough to make the investigators stop. "I can see somebody down there," he says softly, uncertain. Not a person, not quite.
Oh, I can see somebody down there.
Later, wind sweeps across the site, but not from the usual direction. It comes from behind, which is strange for that slope. Fire starter gel sparks the flames to life. Leftover lasagna gets warmed up. He films casually, but you can sense he's on edge. It's a quiet night inside the tent, but just before dawn, something stirs outside. Footsteps, faint, crunching dry leaves. The camera picks up subtle audio. He says it could be mice, but the weight of the steps suggests something bigger. Still, there's no full confirmation, just tension. Batteries keep dying fast, 4 already drained. 1 more and he's down to just a phone. Meanwhile, the squirrels are in chaos, chattering wildly in one direction. He tries moving closer, but whatever's in the woods seems to hear him too. Watch yourself.
Wow, freaky.
Breakfast the next morning is quiet. Chicken-flavored rice heats in a camp pot. The sun returns. He sits in it, finally able to relax. But the peace doesn't last long. Off to the side of camp, branches snap again. Not once. Several in succession. Then, 2 slow, deliberate footsteps. And just like the night before, the squirrels react. All eyes on the trees. Something is moving again. And it isn't just the wind. Watch yourself.
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is come over here. I'm just sit in the sun. Man, that feels nice.
As he breaks camp, you get the sense this trip was not what he expected. The inflatable tent deflates. The mountain looms in the background. But the real story happened in the woods. Out of sight, half heard, maybe unseen, but definitely there. So what was making the knocking sounds? What stirred the squirrels? Was it just wind and wildlife, or something more? Let us know what you think. Have you ever heard knocking in the woods? To understand how a creature like Bigfoot could remain hidden in our modern world, we need to look to the natural world, where camouflage is not only common, but essential for survival. Across the animal kingdom, camouflage is the art of invisibility. It's how prey hide from predators, and how predators get close enough to strike. From the silent wings of owls to the shifting skin of octopuses, nature has perfected this survival technique over millions of years. Camouflage isn't just about color, it's about deception. Some animals use biochromes, natural pigments in their skin, to reflect specific wavelengths of light. Others, like polar bears, use structural camouflage, with fur that scatters light to create the illusion of pure white, despite having black skin underneath. But camouflage must also fool the perception of the viewer. That means tricking the eyes and the brain, blending not only into the environment, but into the expectations of the predator or prey. There are multiple strategies: concealing coloration, like the Arctic fox turning white for winter; disruptive patterns, like a zebra's stripes, which confuse predators by breaking up the animal's outline; counter-shading, used by sharks and dolphins, where the body fades into both light and dark backgrounds depending on the angle. And then there's disguise and mimicry: a leaf-tailed gecko that flattens itself like a dead leaf, or a harmless butterfly that mimics the look of a toxic one. So, is it really so hard to imagine a creature in our forests, perhaps intelligent, cautious, and evolved to survive, developing its own advanced form of camouflage? Bigfoot may not be invisible, but like so many animals in nature, it may simply be hardwired to disappear, and that might be why we keep missing it, even when it's right in front of us. The swamp in daylight can feel just as unsettling. No houses, no trails, just water, tangled shadows, and the constant hum of insects. Some say it's empty here once you leave the roads behind. Others say this is where things begin. In the summer of 2022, two researchers, Chris and Mark, stepped into this wild stretch. They weren't hunters or campers. They were here for something else, something they believed could only be found when the human world was far behind. They carried 2 audio recorders, an EMF meter, and one question: what's moving through these swamps when no one's watching? The first recorder went up quickly, tied to a branch. The air was still, heavy. Then, 3 loud knocks echoed through the trees. Deep, hollow, too even to be random. Watch this part.
The audio recorder is okay. The audio recorder is taller than
another one.
7 feet maybe. We're getting knocks back this way.
Yeah, we had 3 in a row there.
So we're starting to get some interesting stuff, and it's coming back from the same location area.
All right. How do you want to do this, Chris? This is the record.
Oh, it's already.
They stopped and listened. The swamp grew quiet again, but the feeling had changed. It was no longer empty. At the second spot, they tied the recorder high into a palm tree. As Mark worked, movement caught his eye. Something slipped between the fronds. There, then gone. Chris turned just in time to see it vanish. Whatever it was fast. Too fast for a person. The EMF meter came alive. Numbers jumped from 0.1 to 1.4. Chris spoke softly, explaining they meant no harm. Another knock answered him, then another from the opposite side. Something was circling them. From deeper in the swamp came a sharp crack. Wood striking wood. The sound rolled through the trees. Watch this moment.
0.2 fluctuation.
There's a knock over there.
That was up here. 1.4. 1.4.
Never disappoints, I'm telling you.
1.4. I'm trying to.
1.4?
It was 1.4 just for a brief moment. Right here with us. 0.8.
Something right over there. Again.
Mark's gut told him they weren't alone. But it wasn't just one thing out there. The knocks came in patterns from different angles, as if more than one was moving unseen. Then something hit the ground nearby, thrown, not dropped. It was close enough to make them step back. Mark explained what he'd seen earlier. Only part of the figure, just a quarter of it, slipping between the fronds. In the shifting light, it looked blurred, like it didn't fully belong to this world. Chris agreed. It didn't look clear. It looked cloaked. More spikes on the meter, a faint vocalization, low and hard to place, drifted through the still air. The swamp seemed alive, watching, listening. The activity didn't stop until they began packing up. The last knocks came as they walked away, fading into the distance. Play this last sequence.
I heard, what was that? Did you hear that vocal?
It was over here.
It sounded, I heard that vocal.
Hard to tell what it was.
I heard it. It was on the right, yeah.
When we got that triangle, classic triangle pattern.
Some say knocks like these are warnings. Others think they're messages. Out here, there's no easy answer. But Chris and Mark left with more than recordings. They left with the feeling that the swamp had been speaking to them. The question is, who, or what, was answering back? It was a warm September afternoon in 2017, when the field behind the house seemed quiet, too quiet. The camera wasn't even meant to be part of a Bigfoot hunt. It was just a phone, casually recording over the shoulder while walking the edge of the grass. The idea was simple: capture the beauty of the day, maybe a few deer, nothing more. But months later, while reviewing the footage, something stood out. A shape. Not a bush, not a shadow, but something very low, something that seemed to be alive. Frame by frame, the details emerged. There it was, the first, and perhaps most disturbing, of them all. The belly crawler, lying flat in the grass, its head pressed forward, shoulders hunched, one massive arm bent close to the ground. And then, the proof no leaf or stump could ever fake. 3 long fingers moving, each tipped with a dark, unmistakable nail. Even in the blur of the footage, the black fingernails seemed to drink in the light. The head shifted slightly, brows furrowing, eyes adjusting, and a predator hidden in plain sight. Then came something smaller, but no less disturbing. It was the next Bigfoot, the little guy. At first, nothing but grass and shadows. Then the light outline of a head leaning to the right on a bent left arm appeared. It wasn't tall, but it was deliberate, moving with a patience that felt far too deliberate for a child or animal. It wasn't watching aimlessly. It was watching directly. Every frame seemed to confirm it. This wasn't a coincidence. Something was keeping track of the person holding the camera. But the little one wasn't just on the ground. A few minutes later, the footage revealed the little guy in the tree, head angled forward, one thin arm visible, dangling just enough to catch the light between the leaves. No noise, no sudden movement, just the silent stillness of a creature confident in its concealment. And then comes the white one. A pale figure slipped through the backdrop, dubbed the White Bigfoot. Not albino, but with a lighter coat that seemed to shimmer against the shadowed grass. Almost ghost-like, it behaved with a strange smoothness, vanishing before the brain could fully register what it had seen. The final moment was perhaps the most human-like, the moving black head. At first it was only the profile visible, a rounded skull, the line of a jaw, the back of the head moving from left to right. The movement was slow, deliberate, almost testing the air, as if deciding whether to step forward or disappear back into the safety of the shadows. What made this footage so unsettling wasn't just the movement. It was the realization that these figures, big and small, weren't moving across the path of a human. They were discreetly following and making sure to stay just out of sight, their movements perfectly synchronized with the walk along the field's edge. Months had passed before the footage was examined, but the unnerving truth was clear. On that calm September day, something was out there, watching, waiting, and it wasn't alone. Many reports across the internet suggest one undeniable pattern. Bigfoot doesn't just flee, it vanishes. Not through magic, but something far more unnerving: camouflage. The creature's ability to blend in with its surroundings has baffled eyewitnesses and researchers alike. It's not just hiding in plain sight, it's becoming part of the forest itself. Take the most recent sighting out of Colorado. The footage, captured from a moving vehicle, seems ordinary at first, just dry, brown land, peppered with low bushes and sparse trees on a mountainside. But then, something shifts. A dark figure walks slowly through the terrain. It looks unaware of being watched, its movement calm and purposeful. And yet here's the eerie part. If it hadn't been moving, we wouldn't have seen anything at all. It blends perfectly with the colors, the shadows, and the backdrop. Like a ghost wrapped in bark and soil. The question is, how many more times has this creature stood right in front of us, and we never even noticed? Some people search the forest for answers. Others simply hope for a meeting. The man behind Camping with Sasquatch is one of those people. He's had more than one encounter over the years, all of them positive. For him, Sasquatch is not just a mystery to solve, but a presence worth respecting. He believes these creatures can be curious, even kind, and he's drawn to stories that reveal that side. For this trip, he set his sights on northern Michigan, a place known for its vast, untamed stretches of wilderness. His plan was simple: camp for one night near the Manistee and Huron National Forests, explore during the day, and see what the land might reveal. This area has long been thick with sightings. The locals have stories. Travelers pass through with their own accounts. And somewhere in between the truth and the telling, the mystery lingers.
I just got my camp set up, just set up my tent, and I just was looking around, and there's a nice river here up in northern Michigan near the Manistee National Forest. The area that I'm at has reports in all directions when you look on the Bigfoot mapping project.
The evening air was crisp, the kind that carries sound far across the trees. The ground was soft from a recent rain, and the pine needles muted his steps. As he hiked deeper, the forest began to change. Fallen trees crossed one another in rough X shapes, arches bent low and held in place by nothing but another branch. He'd seen formations like this before, but here, the patterns repeated. Each one felt intentional, almost like words in a language not meant for humans. Watch this part.
That's a pretty cool one right there. That looks a little bit odd. Bit out of place. That's kind of cool through there too. The way those are all angled right there in the center screen. But also, I'm wondering if I have one more right over here.
The deeper he went, the quieter it became. At first he didn't notice. Then it hit him. No birds, no squirrels, no usual rustle of life. Just the wind brushing through the pines. And then it came, a sharp whistle, not close, but not far enough to ignore. He stopped, his breath caught in his chest. Another whistle followed, faint, almost like someone calling from a distance. The sound carried just long enough to blur the line between natural and unnatural. Watch yourself.
Wonder what that noise is. That noise right there. There it went. No idea. Gonna see if I can catch it again because I heard it just a tiny bit louder a second ago. Right there.
A narrow trail took him to a sandy slope leading down to the water's edge. The river moved slowly here, dark and reflective. In the soft ground were small, bare-looking prints. Too narrow for boots, too long for deer. There were no adult tracks beside them, just these, moving with purpose along the shoreline. He studied them, the silence behind him feeling heavier now.
These are kind of interesting. They're like small and foot-shaped. But it could be kids that hiked or whatever. We are definitely right off a trail. I mean, it almost looks foot-shaped, just going across. That's interesting.
The trail opened to a cluster of trees leaning together like a teepee. Beneath them, another X-shaped formation. Just beyond, an arch bent so low it nearly touched the ground, held down by a single thick branch wedged into place. It didn't feel like storm damage or random debris. It felt deliberate, a marker left for those who knew how to read it.
Big one and a little one underneath it. Right next to that is this, sort of X-shaped. That's cool right here though. Let me back up so you see the hole. There we go. That is cool.
By the time the sun began to fade, the forest had offered no clear answers, only signs, bends, breaks, tracks, and the echo of that strange whistle. Maybe it was all natural, or maybe something had been watching from the trees, curious about the man who had come looking for it.
I don't see it.
Bro.
What the is that?
Oh!
What is that?
Have you ever stepped into a place where the silence feels watched? That's the feeling the team couldn't shake as they approached the entrance to the abandoned mine. It was remote, half collapsed in places, with rusted rails still leading into the dark. They'd visited this site before, recorded strange EMF readings and caught unusual sounds. But this night felt heavier, charged. Still. The first investigator entered with a flashlight in hand, confident but cautious. The beam cut a narrow path through the dust. About 20 feet in, without warning, the flashlight went dark. No flicker, no dimming, just sudden, complete failure. Watch yourself.
All right, Jen, whatever you are, I'm leaving your cave. Don't attack me on the way out, please. Oh my God. My flashlight just died. It won't turn on. It won't turn on. Guys! Ah! What the is that? Something just growled off. Oh, what the hell's in here? There's something actually in here. Oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Oh. Ah! What the is that?
He paused, thinking it was a loose connection. Pulled out his phone to use the LED. It lit. But only seconds later, a low growl echoed through the tunnel. Not an animal sound. Something deeper, more deliberate. It was enough to freeze him in place. He whispered toward the entrance, but when he looked back, no one was there. A moment later, bats stirred overhead. One swooped toward his face, and he turned and bolted. As soon as he stepped out into open air, the flashlight blinked back on, bright and steady. No issues. He hadn't touched it. Back at the entrance, he told the others what happened. One of them, a skeptic, volunteered to go in himself. The others joked about locking the gate behind him. He laughed it off and stepped inside. Just minutes later, he came sprinting out of the shaft at full speed. So disoriented, he slammed into a nearby tree. See it for yourself.
Grab me the padlock. I don't think he'll last a whole 15 minutes.
I don't know. Oh, here he comes.
Whoa! Oh! Are you okay? Did you not see the tree? Did you hit the tree face first? What happened? Are you okay? Holy
He just got,
Oh, he's cut up.
I think that was a sack.
What the happened? You didn't see the tree?
When they got to him, he was trembling. He didn't speak right away, just pointed back into the mine. He said he'd heard something brushing against the tunnel wall. Then he felt it. Something moved past him. Not wind, not an animal, a presence. Only later did one team member share what the landowner had told him earlier. Years ago, a man had gone missing in that mine, never recovered. The records were sparse, just one old article mentioning a disappearance. The mine had been shut down soon after. Back at their temporary base, an RV parked near the property line, one of the investigators stayed behind to check gear. He said he'd go live from the site later, made a joke about doing a solo broadcast in the mine. But as he leaned over his gear, a sudden, deafening bang struck the side of the RV. The whole vehicle rocked.
Did you guys hear that?
What the was that?
Something just banged something, like, really loud.
Yeah, I felt that in the side of the RV, but I don't think it was the RV that got hit.
I don't know. It sounded like it hit metal. Like
God damn it, I was just falling asleep, too.
He jumped up and looked outside. Nothing. No footsteps. No movement. He assumed it was a prank, radioed the rest of the team, but they were still at the house, reviewing footage. No one had been near the RV. Earlier in the evening, one member had described something strange when walking deep into the shaft. He said the ground felt soft, almost sponge-like. He stepped carefully, but something about the soil gave him a sinking sensation. Then he heard it, faint, almost out of range. A man's voice, not words, just a tone. Low, echoing. Another member said he felt drained after leaving the tunnel, like something had latched on. He couldn't explain it. It wasn't fear, it was exhaustion, like his energy had been siphoned the moment he crossed the threshold. Listen closely.
Devour me at some point.
Yeah, because it did sound like an animal, like totally growling, right?
Not to mention the frickin' bats.
And I don't know about you guys. Did you hear any clicking sounds?
I heard a clicking.
I didn't. No.
I heard a clicking.
I heard a clicking.
Yeah, I heard a clicking.
What the?
Okay, we all just heard that.
As they left the site, all of them reported hearing the same thing. Gravel crunching near the gate, soft clicks echoing off rock. Rhythmic, repetitive. Something pacing near the mouth of the shaft. Long after they'd closed the entrance and packed up their gear. The next morning, the drone operator noticed something strange on the property. Just beyond the mine, tucked into a small ravine, was a pool of water they hadn't seen before. Rust red, still, but the surface had a faint swirling motion, even without wind. They marked the location for a return visit.
All right, we just made it to the Orange Lake. This is pretty surreal. I've never seen anything like this before. The reason why we're even making an effort to explore things like this for this Bigfoot video is because places like this could potentially have prints. It is completely orange.
Whatever had been in that mine hadn't just stayed inside. It followed, it interacted, and it left a trail the team wasn't finished following. What do you think they encountered beneath that mountain? Was it something left behind or something still waiting? Let us know in the comments. The forest was dead still, the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums and makes every step feel too loud. He had only just stepped off his four-wheeler, expecting nothing more than a routine check of his trail cameras, but almost immediately there was a sensation of being watched. The usual chorus of birds and insects was absent. The air carried a faint, heavy tension, like something was holding its breath. Moving deeper into the woods, he noticed signs he hadn't seen before. Leaned branches forming odd patterns, dug-out patches of earth with no clear animal cause, and strange arrangements of rocks. Some of these totems were stuck high in trees, positioned with a deliberate precision that didn't match natural windfall. He'd been here before, but these structures felt new, almost as if they'd been built in the short time since his last visit.
I'm not positive that I came by this tree before, because I'm working my way back to that back area, but look at these chunks that have been dug out of there and thrown. Not like an animal dug them at all. It's just really strange. It's really weird.
The silence was broken by a chilling sequence of sounds like a distant whoop, followed almost instantly by a guttural howl, low and resonant, echoing from the ridge above. The noise didn't belong to any known animal in the area. It sent an instinctive shiver through him, the kind that locks your muscles and narrows your focus. Something was up there, and it wasn't trying to hide completely, just letting him know it was watching. He pressed forward, camera rolling, documenting everything. Bones and antlers appeared near several of the strange wooden constructs, as if they were part of some ritual or marker. Every new find deepened the mystery. He began GPS tagging the spots, his mind torn between scientific curiosity and an uneasy awareness that he might be trespassing in something's territory. Further on, the forest shifted. The air thickened. The ground felt softer, and a faint smell like musky and wild drifted in.
Anyway, I've got to get my bearings here. All right. Following my GPS, there should be one of those structures right here. Ooh, hooked on me. Right there. Ooh, look at that. I don't think that was there before. I'm gonna film this.
It happened again. A deep, furious growl erupted from somewhere behind him, so close it made the hair on his arms rise. It was louder than before, layered with a strange, almost human-like resonance beneath the animal tone. His heart pounded against his ribs. In that moment, he knew without a doubt that it wasn't just a bear, cougar, or any predators he'd encountered before. This was something else entirely. The logical part of his brain told him to leave, to get back to the four-wheeler, but curiosity and adrenaline pushed him further. He checked another structure which was larger, more elaborate, with interwoven branches bent into an unnatural arch. Just as he reached for his camera to zoom in, the forest behind him seemed to shift again.
Creepy. This is weird too. Just walking up this trail, going back. Now, I don't remember there ever being an X on this trail. I mean, I could be wrong. Huh. Anyway, I don't remember that being the case.
Another noise rolled through the trees. It was a strange hybrid between a roar and a growl, followed by an oppressive silence. He froze, scanning the tree line. Nothing moved, but he felt it there, cloaked in the shadows, its presence heavy and unyielding. When he finally decided to turn back, the feeling of being trailed never lifted. Every step toward safety carried the weight of eyes on him. Whatever made those sounds and built those structures hadn't left. It had simply let him go. Have you ever filmed something so ordinary, only to find, hidden in a single frame, something extraordinary? That's exactly what happened when two creators filmed a backyard survival challenge. On playback, viewers noticed something strange. A dark figure standing upright, obscured by trees. It wasn't addressed in the video, but there it was, tall, broad, rigidly still. Not a crew member, not a prop. Watch yourself.
Oh, no, this can't be, this can't be. No, this guy's gotta be wrong, he's gotta be wrong. That's right where we are.
The freeze frame spread fast. Users started speculating. Was it a person, a suit, or something else entirely? The silhouette didn't match human proportions. Shoulders too wide, head too forward, and the way it blended into the brush, unnatural. The creators took it seriously, What started as a game turned into an investigation. They returned to the spot with cameras, thermal imaging, and casting material. The original tree line wasn't far from the house, but once you stepped past the lawn, the landscape changed quickly. Dense thickets, narrow game trails, quiet, but not empty. Watch yourself.
Logan, if that's not Bigfoot, I don't know what that is, okay? And that was taken literally 50 yards from this house. Now, I triangulated the forest behind us, and if you check it out on the Bigfoot map forum, there is a lot of sightings here. There's even newspaper articles about Bigfoot being seen in this area.
That's when they found the first track. Pressed deep into the soil, wide, with splayed toes, no shoe pattern. Whatever left it had weight. And it wasn't alone. Another track was found 6 feet ahead. Same shape, same size. The stride was massive. They followed it, slowly, carefully. Branches above shoulder level were broken, not crushed by wind, snapped. Bark scraped off from mid-tree height. A heavy passage, intentional movement. One of the team spotted a hair sample tangled in a split branch, nearly 7 feet up, coarse, gray-brown, root attached. They sealed it in a collection tube. Watch yourself.
It's feeding time. What? Yo, there's like water in there too. Look at that. There's like scratch marks all along this log. What are those? I don't know. Logan is heading across now. Gonna try and find a path over this massive ditch.
No wildlife approached the area. Even when they left fruit as bait, it remained untouched. But something was moving parallel to them. Out of sight, but not out of range. On thermal, there was a flicker. Something warm, crouched low. It moved between 2 trees and disappeared. Not a deer, not a raccoon, and too fast for any known animal that size. Further in, they discovered claw marks on a fallen log. Fresh, 4 deep grooves, 2 spaced apart for any local carnivore. The bark hadn't aged yet. Whatever made it was here recently. Close. Watch yourself.
Okay, so Jake's taking the long way around. I found a path that connects us to the river. But since I've been here alone, I've been hearing a lot of weird things in the woods. I don't think it's Bigfoot, guys. In my opinion, I think Jake's just done a little bit too much research and, you know, he's acting a little crazy. But that's just between you and me.
As darkness fell, the environment shifted. The insects stopped. A heavy rustle echoed from behind. Then, a rock fell. Not rolled, dropped. A tree cracked somewhere uphill. Nothing vocal, but enough to know something was watching. Not charging, not fleeing, just present. They stopped at the edge of a ravine. Visibility dropped to 0. It wasn't fear that turned them around, it was instinct. Too many unknowns, and something didn't want to be seen. Watch yourself.
Hairy-looking monster roaming at night. The picture that I took from our last video definitely concerned me, but I still wasn't sure for myself, so we had to push forward, putting all that behind us.
The next morning, they returned. The casts had set. What came out of the ground showed clear impressions. 5 toes, mid-tarsal break, no arch. One was 16 inches long. The weight distribution was off-center, like a creature used to walking uneven terrain. The hair was sent for analysis. No confirmed match, but it didn't align with deer, bear, or canine samples from the region. It remains unidentified. No one was attacked. No structures were found. But what they experienced wasn't entertainment. It was something quietly disturbing. Just far enough outside normal to leave doubt. Just close enough to leave no comfort. Watch yourself.
That's a pretty big foot. Yeah, we'll be able to get a better imprint of what it looks like once we pull this out, but we're gonna need to let it harden. Now we just gotta wait 30 minutes for that to set, and then we can pull it out. I'm not feeling this. Okay, freak it. I keep hearing things. Yeah. Yo, and I know I saw something on that footage, man.
What do you think they captured? A coincidence shaped by branches and shadow, or a brief accidental glimpse into something watching from the woods? Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever filmed something and only noticed the strange part later? Most creatures vanish when winter comes. But in the high mountains of British Columbia, something stays. Here, in a land where the air can freeze skin in minutes, life should be scarce. Yet it isn't. Elk still move through the valleys. Moose still browse by the streams. Even the smallest plants, like rose hips, cling to their stems for months under snow. It's a perfect ecosystem, quiet, balanced, and, some believe, watched. Todd Standing has spent years here, following a mystery older than the trails themselves. His question is simple, but the answer changes everything. If Sasquatch exists, how does it survive a winter that even wolves struggle to endure? He begins with food. Here, the land provides more than enough. Deer wander close, unafraid. Elk pass through almost weekly. Once a month, a moose appears, its massive frame enough to feed a family for weeks. And for something that knows the land like no other, winter is not famine, it's opportunity. Even the plants hold secrets. Rose hips, rich in vitamin C, hang on through much of the year. To Todd, every detail adds to the same truth. This is a land that feeds its predators well. Then there's the water. Not just clear, but alive with minerals. Melted from ice that has rested for 20,000 years. Flowing even in the heart of winter, when other streams lock in ice. Watch this part.
I could smash with a stick, bring home. About every 2 days, I come across a deer where I'm literally a distance of 20 to 50 yards away, kill shot with a bow and arrow at worst, easy shot with a rifle of any kind. About once a week, I come across an elk. Once a month, I come across a moose. So with that much abundance, with meat, with the carnivorous diet, knowing how to survive out here, you literally have rose hips that have vitamin C that you could harvest at least 8 months out of the year. And then you have this, look at this, one of my favorite things about the wilderness.
Todd stands beside the current, the air steaming faintly above it. He imagines what might lie deeper in the mountains, hidden caves warmed by underground springs, shelter from the cold. Safe places for something with bare, wide feet to wait out the worst of winter. He's seen signs of planning before. Salmon pulled from rivers, wrapped in moss, stored in frozen ground like a larder. Hunting done in groups, moving over snow with a speed no elk could outrun. None of it by chance. These are survival skills, passed down through countless generations. One story stands out. A wildlife study once tracked an elk herd. Each year, the herd left open hunting grounds to shelter inside a national park. The young lived. The prime males disappeared. The report called it coincidence. Todd called it something else, management.
He found a herd of elk that was just outside Banff National Park, and every year for hunting season, they would come into Banff and not get hunted from hunters going into the national park, which was the first time in history that's ever been noted. So he went to study them. What he did note is the young had a 90% survival rate, and males between 3 to 5 years old had a 90% death rate. His study got rejected. They called him incompetent, and then he called me. And he had to let that study go because what was happening was the Sasquatch were protecting this herd. So the young would survive.
A predator taking the strongest, leaving the rest, keeping the herd healthy for the years ahead. This place still holds its natural hunters, wolves, mountain lions, bears. The balance is intact, and in that balance, Todd believes, Sasquatch has its place. Watch this part.
How a Sasquatch feels about that. So they see these trophy hunters come out, kill the old, yucky, nasty elk, moose, deer, whatever you want to call it, and literally they'll take the head off, which is the worst part of the worst animal, and take that home and leave the body. And they're thinking, what in the hell kind of crap is this? They just completely wouldn't understand how ridiculous that is.
The ridgeline looms, dark against a silver sky. This is not like the southern forests, where predators are gone and the balance is broken. Here, life and death still follow the old rhythm. Here, a creature could walk unseen for decades, leaving only shadows and questions behind. Todd stands by the stream as the wind shifts, the pines whispering overhead. In his mind, the answer is no longer if they exist, but how close they might be right now. And maybe, if you stayed still long enough, the forest would tell you. What if everything we know about Sasquatch is only half the story? And what if the real answers aren't found in gadgets, traps, or night vision cameras, but in ancestral knowledge, spiritual connection, and stillness? In the untouched wilds of northwestern Alberta, one man continues to explore that possibility. Meet Robert Judd, the voice behind the Swan Lake Bigfoot YouTube channel. A seasoned Cree tracker with a legacy stretching back to 1972, his first Sasquatch encounter, Robert doesn't hunt these beings. He builds relationships with them. And that's exactly what makes his story different. For Robert, tracking Sasquatch is not about capturing proof for headlines.
Robert, hello from Michigan. Thank you for all your knowledge and help. Angie. And musical medium. She's got in brackets, musical medium.
It's about understanding the old ways, the subtle exchanges between forest and human, and the belief that these beings are not monsters, but relatives. Quiet guardians of forgotten boundaries. In one of his most haunting and powerful moments, Robert shares a photograph taken near an aged totem pole.
I really believe this is a little baby Bigfoot, and I'm going to share this with you. I've got 3 or 4 still images that I want to share with you that I was able to get.
Deep within Sasquatch territory. At first glance, it's a quiet woodland scene, but then something reveals itself. Hidden just beside the base of the totem is what Robert believes to be a baby Sasquatch, thumb in its mouth, its body nestled close to a much larger figure, likely its mother.
To pick up on it, but I just want to show you this little guy. And all I did was the diffuse glow filter.
Watch closely as Robert slowly enhances the image on screen, shifting contrast and light to reveal the subtle shape of the young figure beside the totem.
And a little bit of noise. It's called a noise filter, which takes away the pixels, like the squareness, the square pixels, and kind of rounds everything.
The image didn't come from a hunt. It wasn't baited or chased. It happened during a quiet walk to one of his gifting sites. Simple spaces where Robert leaves feathers, marbles, and small toys for the beings he's come to know over decades.
To the stills that I'm able to get, and then the little journey it takes before it gets to you. It's the filters that are helping us see these things a little bit better, right?
And sometimes, something changes. Sometimes the gifts are rearranged. Other times, they vanish. One day, a perfectly stacked tower of stones stood where none had been before. On another, small barefoot prints appeared in the damp soil. No child could have made them. Not that deep. Not alone. This photo, though, this was different. To Robert, it wasn't evidence.
The upper lip, and I swear, this little Sasquatch, I think this is a baby Sasquatch, sucking on his thumb. And here's...
It was an offering of trust, that a young Sasquatch would be visible, even slightly, beside a sacred totem pole meant more than just presence. It meant permission. He believes the totem itself, a spiritual marker and guardian in Cree tradition.
I have a little something to share with you guys here. It's a little video. I'm going to take you all back to the Bigfoot totem pole.
Played a role. These poles aren't decorative. They're boundary keepers, story holders. Robert often says that what we think of as totems in indigenous culture aren't just artistic. They're contracts with the land. Agreements honored by more than humans.
Who's been around children, little kids, little babies. That's what they do. That pointer sticks up out straight and their little thumb.
Listen in as Robert explains how the totem pole's energy may have created a moment of safety, where even the youngest of the Sasquatch clan felt safe enough to be seen. Robert refers to this group of Sasquatch as the Seven Creeks Clan, a name given not by lore, but through years of observation, dreams, and tracks. He believes this clan knows him by him. They've accepted his presence. And that's why the image matters. It's not high resolution. It's not flashy.
Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, this little guy, he's there. And if you notice, I still see his little right arm and...
But it's real. Just like the Swan Lake Bigfoot channel. No jump scares, no exaggeration. Just quiet footage, still frames, and honest narration by a man who walks softly and listens deeply. His goal isn't to convince the world. His goal is to protect the bond. He doesn't chase. He doesn't provoke. He waits.
I couldn't see it, right? When you see something in your camera and you're looking in the same place there and it's not there, but here it is in your camera. Okay, it's not there. It's a very...
And through that waiting, this moment arrived. A baby Sasquatch, thumb in mouth, beside a totem. An image that seems almost too simple, until you realize what it took to get there. Decades of respect, dozens of gifts, countless quiet steps. Hear Robert reflect on why this moment wasn't about evidence.
The orbs, that orb, there was an orb flying around that tree while I was there. And then, of course, I was...
It was about being trusted enough to witness something sacred. To many, Sasquatch is still a myth. But for those who've seen what Robert has seen, it's a memory, a living presence that doesn't need to be proven, only honored. And that's the mission of Swan Lake Bigfoot. Not to win over skeptics, but to show the world what becomes possible when we slow down and listen.
More strange occurrences and things. It's like it's been 5 for 5. These strange anomalies and strange things are taking place back up in...
Could this image be what it seems? A baby Sasquatch leaning into the protection of its clan beside a spiritual totem? Or is it something else? A message, a mirror, a mystery meant only for those who pay attention. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because in this forest, stories don't scream, they whisper.
So we will get into the video here again. Everybody take care. Thank you. And if there's anybody else, so everybody take care. If there's any new subscribers, thank you for being here. And I will see you in the trees real soon. Bye for now.
Hey folks, so if you enjoyed this dive into the wild, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next adventure. And let us know in the comments, do you think this was Bigfoot or just something else lurking in the dark?